Chat room. Hello and howdy. How are we doing today? I hope you're all doing very, very well. It is good to see ya. I'm sorry that we didn't stream yesterday. Things have been pretty fucking crazy. I'm not gonna lie. It's hard. It's hard in the Dungeon Doxy household right now. But we're here today. Oh, time for hydration already. Give me one moment. I'm still a little bit setting up. I couldn't wait to hang out with my chat room, so I started talking. Fucking around with new lighting tonight, and I'm not wearing makeup. So if I look a little bit more like a corpse than normal, that is why. In Athens, no one wakes up before noon. Dawn is tough on Greece. Okay, I love that one. Maggie, hi. How are you? It's good to see you. Hello. Here, I will redeem this hydrate. Thanks for looking out for me. Everybody go follow Maggie. Ad ended and I can hear you. It's good to see you. Thank you for looking out for me. I apologize that it wasn't right away. Hello, everyone. Are we excited about doing some crochet? We're going until we finish this fucking shirt tonight. That's happening. It's an awesome water bottle, hey? It was really cheap too. It is for Weiwei. For Weiwei. I got it on Amazon. It has a little, I don't know if you can see, but like a little filter diffuser thing in the top here. So you can like put fruits or cucumbers or lemons or whatever. And yeah, it is big here. We'll move over to live. It's a good water bottle. Sometimes I like to put cucumbers or something in my water and it makes it more refreshing. And that way I make sure that I don't like swallow any of the like slime or seeds or whatever and choke. Okay, so everybody follow Maggie. She does D&D content. She's amazing. You're gonna love her. She's been on the channel a bunch of times. So, I mean, if that wasn't all you needed to know, at least you know that she's a friend of the channel. Okay, so we're gonna be doing. We did Nexpo content last time. We're gonna be doing true crime today. Oh, stop what you're doing. Jeez Louise, you guys can't see. I'll make it so that you can see. We're on the Nexpo channel here, but this isn't what we're going for right now. We're heading to Dreading. Writers. I did not mean to start this video. I meant to go to the channel. I always do that. I like just click on the name and expect it to take it to the channel. And then it goes to the video that I clicked on, which is like what makes sense. They pushed your start date back a week. Hi, Shardies. How are you? It's good to see you. Okay. So the last one that we did was Jared. We still haven't done Sid and Nancy. You guys can tell me which of these ones you're looking forward to. I don't know why this one has it started. I think it's the one that we just clicked on, but we definitely haven't watched this much of the video. But you guys can choose. Tell me what you're into. If we're gonna do this one, it's probably the only one we'll be doing tonight. We've got Kevin Spacey. I know that I will tonight. We are not monetized. Like, I just know that for sure. Yes, my phone does have plenty of charge. Oh, actually, it's kind of low. It's at 50% right now. There's Kika. Do you guys here? Look at him. Look at how cute this cat is. It's ridiculous. He is just the best animal. It does need charge though. I was playing I was playing a lot of Candy Crush earlier. I'm not gonna lie to you. I was definitely procrastinating my responsibilities in a big way, but things have been really rough around here, so my self-care sometimes includes Candy Crush. That's all I'm gonna say. Okay, so nobody has said anything. I kind of want to know. I've never heard of this person, but it's really long, which tells me that it's going to be very interesting. And then if we're still not finished with the shirt by the end of this, we can do this short one. How does everybody feel about that? Does that sound fun? Can I get some yays and nays in chat? I legit replaced my girlfriend's phone battery last week because I killed it. It's easy to do. It's easy to fuck up a phone battery. If you don't keep it between 20% and 100%, it shortens the life of your battery. You want something brutal? I mean, I can't promise that. I don't know. I can tell you that we aren't going to be doing Kevin Spacey, but he's not very brutal. Sid and Nancy is kind of brutal, but like pretty tame for the stuff that's been on the channel. I think we're going to do this one because it's so long. I bet that there's like lots of twists and stuff in it.
Are liars.
Please, for the love of fudge. Okay. And then tomorrow we're going to go back to covering the sedition hearings. So we'll be live during the day tomorrow. So I will be taking a sleeping pill this evening so that I can fall asleep at a reasonable time. Hi, Muse. How are you? Bardic. You decided that you like Bardic. So you are Bardic. How early? Not that early. I think that it's at 1 p.m. Eastern time. So 2 p.m. for me. What is the red tat on your arm? It's a Dark Souls bonfire. It's really beautiful, if I may say so myself. It's not my artwork, so I don't feel like an asshole saying that. If you guys are close enough to Iowa that it's feasible for you to go to Iowa City for a tattoo, David at Black and Gold Tattoo he's the most talented, and he's all of his work has healed well. It hasn't hurt too bad. He did the giant tattoo on my thigh that I have of Death and the Maiden. How far is that from Des Moines? 2 hours. Oh my goodness. Thank you so much for resubbing, Cody. I appreciate you. 11 a.m. for you. What time zone are you in? Dusk Shadow Fox. Oh, I'm sorry, Moth. I'm sorry that that's disappointing. Really, it's like an hour and a half if you drive like me. I do not condone super speeding. I do not condone it. Just throwing that out there. You're in mountain time? Fucking cue the calculus equations. Fuck. I am just like completely dropping the ball. So from mountain time to Eastern time is 2 hours. So yeah, it would be 11 a.m. for you for sure. David did one of your ex's tests. Which David? Lil. I'd have to be on the road 3 hours just to get to my uncle's house alone. It's he's worth it though. Like if you're gonna be getting permanent artwork on your body, he's worth. If you like my tattoos, he's the person that does. He's done all of my tattoos except for the one that I don't like very much. You don't know she was crazy. Fair enough. It might not be the same David. Lil, are you from Iowa? Yeah, my sleep schedule just screwed to fuck this week. I'm sorry to hear that. That's always so frustrating. Nice. How's it going? Anton, everybody make sure that you follow Anton as well. He also does streams of the video game variety. Okay. Are y'all ready? If you guys are not ready yet, if you guys want to sit and chat for a little bit, we can totally do that. I just don't have a lot to chat about, to be perfectly honest with you. Trying out the warm lighting, and I think I like it. It makes me look less like a pale asshole. Actually been considering getting back into it. If you ever want somebody to play video games with, I'm desperate to play more Back 4 Blood. I'm desperate to play just any team video game. It's been a while. You're in Ontario. Okay. You need a yarn winder? Yo, I got a spindle one, and I am awful at using it. Anyway, can I get some readies in chat? We have 22 folks in here. Can I get just 3 readies? Babe! Yeah? Hi. Love you. Love you too. Ooh, we're chasing a sneeze, boys.
Writers are liars. I don't remember who said this, but it's not true. In writing fiction, you dig deep and unearth portions of your own life that you've long forgotten and purposely buried deep.
Fun.
Granted, sometimes it is smarter to change the ending. That being said, let me add, this photo is a lie. I haven't looked like this for a while, but it is me. I grew up reading and writing.
Okay. Come sit on my lap, Lilim, you 4'8" glass of water, and call me Goth Mommy. How'd you like it?
My first published work was a pamphlet for the University of Houston entitled Between Your Navel and Your Knees. I'll leave you to figure out the subject matter.
I always do that. I always want to wrap it once.
My imaginary friends have rich, larger-than-life lives, encompassed in a few hundred pages with definite beginnings, snappy middles, and above all, happy endings. My personal life is never as clearly defined. Beginnings are hard to locate. A new job,
feel free to clip
term, a family event like a death or a wedding might signal the start of something new, but it's never heralded with any fanfare, other than another link in the chain. I live in the beautiful, green, and very wet Northwest, married to a chef whose mantra is, life is a science project. As a result, there are chickens and turkeys in my backyard, as well as a fabulous vegetable garden, which also grows tobacco for an insecticide, as well as a hot meal on the table every day. For those of you who have longed for this, let me caution you. The old adage is true. Be careful what you wish for. When the gods are truly angry, they grant us our wishes. And the payment is always high. I fight an insidious 10 pounds every year of my life. I can't tell you when I fell in love with my husband, but I relate to the moment I decided to marry him. I was in the bath. It was a big tub. I expected him to join me, and when he was delayed, I called out, "Are you coming?" His answer convinced me he was Mr. Right. "Yes, but I'm making hors d'oeuvres." Can you imagine spending the rest of your life without a man like that? Like all marriages, we've had our ups and downs.
That's really
More
cute.
good times than bad. More recently,
me and
we've
Josiah
spent
like to take baths together.
months living
just
in
a
an
nice
apartment
bonding
while our
time.
house was
I
rebuilt
really
from a
treasure
house
those
fire.
baths.
In the process, I have acquired an in-depth knowledge of kitchen cabinets, bathroom
love
plumbing
spending time with
fixtures,
him.
and leaking roofs. If this writing thing doesn't work out, I plan to investigate becoming a contractor who specializes in on-time, under-budget remodels. Believe me, there is a fortune to be made by the builder who can deliver on his promises. My stories are about pretty men and strong women, about families that don't always work, and about the joy of finding love and the difficulty of making it stay. Nancy
I've done it.
Brophy. Welcome back to another episode of Dreading. Today we are going to cover the case of Chef Dan Brophy that took place in Portland, Oregon in 2018, and how the same woman who wrote the words I just spoke would go on to end his life in a way she had written about years prior. This case bears a striking resemblance to some of the most noted cases in history, that being of an author who has gone on to write about a crime they committed in the past. However, that trope is turned on its head, as you will come to see.
Babe.
If this is your first video on this channel,
Fuck
consider
yeah,
subscribing
thank you.
below if you find yourself enjoying it. If you have any topics you would like to see me cover, leave them in the comments down below, or feel free to send me an email. With all of that out of the way, let us...
For what it's worth, if anybody's curious, this is just like a skincare, like, routine, I guess, sample kit. And it's anti-aging, which I want. I'm starting to really notice all the bags under my eyes and stuff, and the wrinkles under my eyes are getting out of control. Okay, anyway, I'm very excited. I'm very excited about this. This one just got very good. I feel bad. I always feel bad for getting excited about true crime. Somebody died for this. I feel kind of bad, but I think it's going to be terribly exciting. I'm sorry.
Let's begin.
I'm sorry.
If you were to ask Dan Brophy prior to June 2nd, 2018, how he thought his life was going, he would have told you that it was nearly perfect. He had his dream job teaching at the Oregon Culinary Institute and working part-time as a head chef at his friend's restaurant on the side. As a favor to that friend, he raised chickens and grew a variety of herbs and vegetables, which he sold to his students at a discounted rate. That way they were able to use fresh food in all of their dishes.
Oh my
he
God,
spent a
he sounds like a
considerable amount of time
treasure.
researching things that fascinated him, like marine biology and
It's
mushrooms.
not blood, I
And
promise.
last, but certainly not least, he was in what he thought was a happy marriage with his longtime love, Nancy. Dan wasn't shy about how happy he was. In fact, it seemed to radiate off of him. He would often tell his students about his wife, calling her management, and saying that she was the brains of their home. She kept him balanced and always brought him down to earth whenever he put too much on his plate, which occurred
Oh my
often.
goodness, thank you so
For
much for the
Dan,
biddies. Also,
tragedy
hi
of the world
muffins.
was that
How
there
are
were
you?
some
It's good to see
people
you.
who weren't as blessed in their lives as he had been, and he often took on too much trying to make people as happy as he was. This included him taking lower paying jobs or positions without pay to help friends out, or spending what little of the spare time he had at a homeless shelter in the area, feeding the needy. On Thanksgiving, Dan would have a pie bake-off with his class, where the goal was to make as many pies as possible.
Moss, do feel
Afterwards,
free to share
instead of
it in the
indulging
Discord.
himself, Dan would spend the rest of the holiday traveling around the Portland area and giving the pies to people in need. People around Dan said it was hard to be irritated with him, even when he was being annoying, because you always knew he was trying to help. He'd spend hours with people he barely knew, trying to solve whatever problem they had, and he'd make it his mission to get people to smile.
I'm fasting, and Josiah just made something that smells so good. I'm so hungry.
Daniel Brophy. I have been teaching since the Oregon Culinary Institute.
I think it's a bagel. Oh, man.
My background in food spans approximately 45 years.
Customer said, is this a sushi bar?
The wagon rolls on Friday, so it is sort of the equivalent of my farmer's market. 100% satisfaction guarantee. I would say in the
food
last
smell
35
tortures,
years,
yeah.
I've had about 150
He doesn't need the
vegetable
fast.
gardens.
His body's perfect. Sorry, I won't be horny on Maine.
Despite
I won't.
his obvious contentment with his life, things weren't perfect in the Brophy household. Dan and Nancy had
He,
hit a
he
financial
wants
rough
to
patch,
be healthy
and it was
and do stuff,
beginning
but
to
all
take a
he
toll
really
on them
needs
as they
is
approached their retirement
to
age.
exercise
Dan wasn't a
because
big
we
spender.
both have, like,
He
really
often
sedentary
thought
lives
material
as
goods were
content
helpful
creators.
but unnecessary, and maintained a mostly frugal spending style. However, Nancy's own
So,
spending
my
habits
fasting
didn't align
days are
with
gonna be
Dan's.
very
Though her
hard.
friends and family would state that Nancy wasn't a flashy person, she did enjoy the finer things in life. Whatever she made at her various jobs, she spent, and she spent quickly, going so far as to garner a significant amount of credit card debt. She had drained their savings, as well as Dan's retirement funds, and had very little to show for
Damn.
it. Even paying their $1,500 a month mortgage on their small home was becoming a challenge. Because of her spending, it was becoming clear that Dan and
1,500 is a
her would not
lot
be able to
for a
retire
mortgage.
anytime soon. But it was ultimately unclear how much Dan knew about his own
Depending on when
fiscal
it was. I mean,
well-being.
now it's
He had
not,
mentioned to some
like, right
students
this
and
minute,
peers
like,
that
very
money was a
recently
bit
it's
tight,
not.
but the situation was more dire than he appeared to understand. He was still accepting jobs for little to no money, spending his time giving back to others, and in at least one instance, lent a friend a considerable amount of money. When asked about the hardship, Dan laughed it off entirely, stating that he didn't mind working and doing what he was doing until he was at death's door, because what people said was true. If you find what you love, you'll never work a day in your life. Dan had found what he loved, and he was happy, but the same was not true for Nancy. Nancy, as stated, was the brains behind the couple. She was the one in charge of the finances, and the spending, and the organizing of their lives as much as possible. Nancy wore a lot of hats as well. Apart from being the head of the household and decision maker of the family, Nancy has been a caterer, was actively working as an insurance agent, and most notably, was an author of romance novels like The Wrong Brother, The Wrong Husband, The Wrong Cop, The Wrong Hero, The Wrong Seal, The Wrong Lover,
I only
and
ever
Hell
really
on
like
the
day
Heart.
drinking
Nancy
when I go
was
to the
passionate
beach.
about writing, specifically
Or tailgating.
self-published
It's fun
romance
to
novels
day drink
that
with
featured
tailgating.
shirtless men
But
on
I
the
hope you
cover.
had a good
She
time
thought
and
it
you
was
were
her
safe
ultimate
and you're
calling,
hydrated.
and that as a writer, she was up there with the greats. She often talked about how she was smarter than most people gave her credit for, as she was able to balance complex plots and create fantasy scenarios with an amount of realism that was unheard of in her chosen genre. Despite her books not selling well, Nancy would often malign others who only wrote on the side, stating that they didn't have a real passion or drive to do what she did. However, her books seemed to be a dime
People
a
have to
dozen and
live.
rarely broke 20 reviews on Amazon, where they were self-published. Nancy often spoke to other self-published romance novelists and found herself annoyed at the lack of recognition her work garnered. Out of her peers, she believed her writing to be the best, and it annoyed her when someone else's work surpassed hers. But for the most part, she feigned happiness at their success, knowing that any contempt would make her look petty and jealous. On her blog, NancyBrophyAuthor.com, Nancy spoke of her frustration mildly, writing in a post titled, "Consider the Lilies. Consider the lilies,
this still
how they grow.
going?
They
Is
don't
that-
toil,
is
neither
that
do
blog
they
still
spin.
up?
Yet I tell
Can
you,
somebody
even
check?
Solomon in all his glory was not arrayed like one of these." Luke 12:27. I've always loved the idea that it is possible to exist without toil and worry, but in my life I've never found it to be true. For years I had a different quote hanging in my office. The middle of anything always looks like a failure, which was to remind myself that while I continually seek instant gratification, it is more important to be working than to sit idle hoping good things will just come. Because I am a selfish being, sometimes when good happens, I don't take the time to celebrate. Instead, I look like a small child at Christmas, eager for the next present. This year I declared I would publish 12 books. In truth, it's kicking my ass. Fortunately for me, writing is a solitary profession, and my only immediate family and a few good friends have seen me ride the roller coaster of emotions from high to low and back again. I'm not going to publish my to-do list. It exhausts me to contemplate the unending column that even if I finish doing each and every one, tomorrow more would appear. However, I will say every time I'm able to cross another line item off, it is a small victory. Unlike Dan, she was forced to take other jobs to supplement their income, forcing her real passion to the side. But according to the people who knew Nancy the best, she pretended that she didn't mind,
Gotta look at my
but it
pattern
annoyed
for a
her
second here.
immensely. She wanted to be seen as a writer first and foremost, and the fact that she was forced to work odd jobs outside of it was irritating. As previously mentioned,
Fudge.
Nancy also had a penchant for spending. In her blog about her life, she alluded to the fact that she found her life, as picturesque and quiet as it was, to be bland and boring. She knew that she had what so many others had dreamed about, but she wanted more. She came to resent her cozy home and the animals that Dan decided to raise in the backyard. Friends would state that Nancy had become enamored with the idea of traveling outside of Oregon, experiencing new things, with or without Dan, and trying the finer things in life. She wanted adventure and romance, the kind she would write about in her books, and she felt, on a certain level, she was owed that. Her blog casually mentioned her own dissatisfaction with her life, and her want to explore the world. But it was clear that there was something in the way, or rather, two things, money and Dan. Dan was frugal, and, as Nancy had described him on occasion, simple. He didn't want more for himself or for them. He was content with where he was, and anything he gained, he was happy to part with. If they went to a store, he would buy the cheapest of everything, unless it was food related, because he simply didn't care to spend. So when Nancy began to spend more on their lives, buying trips and various material goods, he was confused. Nancy tried to get Dan to understand where she was coming from. She was okay with their lives. It was objectively fine, but she wanted
so
more.
on top,
And if he
then
loved
in
her,
between
he would
third and
understand.
fourth, then
As she
in between
continued to
fifth
bring
and
home
sixth, then
expensive
on top
items
of
and gifts for
last. Cool.
herself,
We
she
can do that.
likewise began lying to Dan, telling him that she had gotten a bonus at work and was making more money, which was why she could afford these new things. Unbeknownst to Dan, she had begun to take out
Hey,
more
Sognath.
credit cards in their names. and was draining their savings. As time went on, things didn't get better for
Holy
Nancy.
shit.
On some level, it appeared she was trying to fake it until she made it, wanting to act like a famous author without the actual fame. She did a book signing at a local small bookstore, only to have no one show up, and she felt as if her books were getting less and less attention than they had before. Worse still, she had drained Dan's retirement and destroyed their credit, which he almost knew nothing about. For Nancy, the idea of telling Dan was daunting. She wasn't happy in their life together, but she also knew that she couldn't very well complain about it without seeming ungrateful. She wanted adventure, romance, and thrill, and she had spent more than they had trying to get that. Telling him about what she had done and how she was unhappy would make her into the bad guy, and she didn't want to do that.
She's
Nancy
a real
was
Chandler,
treading water,
hey?
trying to find a way around the predicament she had gotten herself and her husband into. And then it hit her. In November 2017, she remembered the article she had written in 2011 for her friend's self-publishing blog, See Jane Publish. The article was titled, How to Murder Your Husband by Nancy Brophy. As a romantic suspense writer, I spend a lot of time thinking about murder. And
what an idiot!
About police procedure. After all,
real?
if the murder is supposed to set me free, I certainly don't want to spend any time in jail. And let me say clearly for the record, I don't like jumpsuits, and orange isn't my color.
Holy
Motives.
shit.
Number one is financial. This is big. Divorce is expensive, and do you really want to split your possessions? Or if you married for the money, aren't you entitled to all of it? The drawback is the police aren't stupid. They are looking at you first, so you have to be organized, ruthless, and very clever. Husbands have disappeared from cruise ships before. Why not yours? Number two. Lying, cheating bastard, deception of any sort. This is a crime of passion. In anger, you bash his head in or stab him with a kitchen knife. Most of the time, there is a trail that leads directly to you. Each type of murder leaves clues. A crime of passion does not look like a stranger was involved. And who is left to clean the blood from your carpeting? Number three, fell in love with someone else. Usually financial is also involved here. Let's say your church frowns on divorce. You need to be a widow so you won't fall out of favor with your religion. At this point,
my God.
I should mention
murder?
that it helps if you aren't too burdened by the 10 Commandments. Number four,
my goodness.
abuser. This one is tough.
Thank you so much, Your
Anybody can
Highness.
claim abuse.
Have a good night.
What is abuse?
Thank
To a
you for the
teenager, it might
biddies. So
look
nice.
different than to a spouse. As a motivation, this reason usually comes up after you've been arrested. Not a lot of abused wives dial 911 upon burning down the house with their husband still in it. Number five, it's your profession. Now we're talking. You already possess both skill and knowledge. You have the moral ambiguity necessary to carry it off. Quick hit and you fade from the scene. Get your payment up front from someone else, because life insurance probably won't send a check. Options to consider. Guns. Loud and messy, requires some skill. If it takes 10 shots for the sucker to die, either you have terrible aim or he's on drugs. Knives. Really personal and up close. Blood everywhere. Ew. Garrett. How much upper body strength does it even require to strangle a person? Random heavy piece of equipment. Usually this involves hitting someone hard with a baseball bat or a pipe wrench you just happen to have in your hand. Poison. Considered a woman's weapon. Arsenic is easy to obtain. Worse, easy to trace. It takes a month or two to kill someone. Plus, they are sick the entire time. Who wants to hang out with a sick husband? Knowledge of pharmaceuticals would be handy. Availability would be even better. A word of caution though, watch out for poisons found in nature. They are not a sure thing. Too little, too much. Your mother always told you to marry a doctor. Now you know why. Hiring a hitman. Do you know a hitman? Neither do I.
This is bumming me out.
Rat you out to the police. Or blackmail you later. Hiring a lover. Never a good idea. The husband dies and the wife gets the money. The lover doesn't always win in a scenario. Sometimes he too finds himself facing a loaded gun. I find it easier to wish people dead than to actually kill them. I don't want to worry about blood and brains splattered on my walls. And really, I'm not good at remembering lies. But the thing I know about murder is that every one of us have it in him or her when pushed far enough. What constitutes as a good romantic suspense anyways? What happened that forced a person into this situation? How will they justify this action? By the way, he needed killing is not a legal defense. Can they keep a secret?
DJ.
Confidence whispered in the dark is no longer a secret. What if killing didn't produce the right results? Would they do it again? Could they do it again? What if they liked it? Whoa, there's an idea for a new story. Nancy's narrative building and daydreaming led her to her own published work. and she realized that if anyone could kill their husband and make it look like an accident, who better than her? Nancy didn't want to divorce Dan, nor did she want to separate from him at all. He was a good guy, with a wonderful family, and she had grown accustomed to their lives together, even if she did want to seek greener pastures. If she were to tell Dan that she had lost their retirement savings and accrued thousands of dollars of debt in their names, he would say, "I told you so," about her spending, and that was something she didn't want to hear. Likewise, telling
Definitely
Dan
punishable
that she had
by
led them to
death.
financial ruin and that she wanted a divorce so she could travel the world and seek adventure would mean being in a worse financial spot than she had been in before. His family would resent her, and she knew that her friends would likely pick Dan in the divorce, leaving her with virtually no one. But if Dan were to suddenly die out of nowhere in a tragic murder, she would be the grieving widow who people would expect to want to travel. She would be given a pass to do whatever she wanted, as she would be in a state of mourning. Friends and family would rally around her,
How
taking care of her,
self-centered do
giving
you
her
have
anything
to
she
be?
needed. Not to mention, the publicity from Dan's death would serve as promotion for her own books. She could even write about the heartbreak and spin it into an entire money-making operation. For Nancy, it was a win-win. The only downside was that Dan would die, and she was more than okay with that. She also believed herself to be one of the most gifted minds in the modern world, and her profession meant that she was uniquely equipped to carry about a murder flawlessly. As
Still
an author,
working
she
on
often
the
spoke
top,
about
but
how
this
she
should
would
be the
run
last
through
night
every
that we're
possible
working on
scenario
it.
for her characters,
I'm on the
making
last
sure that their actions were
repeat
believable
of the
to
pattern
the reader.
right now.
Likewise, she often would do hours of research, finding out how to carry out certain crimes in order for her books to appear realistic. And this crime would be no different. For her books, The Wrong Cop and The Wrong Seal, she had spent hours on Google looking into the lives of cops and Navy SEALs, making sure she got every detail of their jobs correct, down to the make and model of the guns they were using. And, in Nancy's mind, this would be no different. But, as it would turn out, killing your husband is a lot different than writing a romance novel. And Nancy wasn't particularly good at either. On the morning of June 2nd, 2018, Dan left his house the same time he always did.
I don't
to
need
open
this
up
pattern
the Oregon
anymore
Culinary
at all.
Institute. The school worked like a well-oiled machine, and Dan always stuck to his schedule. He was often the first to arrive at the building, and he would spend the first hour or so on his own, making coffee, setting up his lessons, and making sure everything he needed was ready and accounted for. His students would slowly trickle in, grabbing a fresh coffee and starting their morning with a normal conversation with Dan. But that day was different. Dan arrived early, like he usually did, and unlocked the doors. He had begun to make coffee and set up his class, when, out of nowhere, he was shot in the back. He turned around, and he was shot once more in the chest, then collapsed to the ground. The shooter then left the building, locking the doors behind them, making sure that Dan would bleed out on the ground before anyone arrived. When Dan's students got there, they found it was weird that they couldn't get in. Someone knocked on the door loudly, thinking that Dan was just inside and had forgotten to unlock it. Others thought he slept in or was sick. It took a while before another teacher arrived and they were able to get in. But once they were, they found Dan's body. One of his students tried to do CPR on him, hoping beyond reason they would be able to save his life. But by the time EMTs arrived, he was already dead. Dan Brophy was well loved, and nothing showcased that as much as his senseless murder. His students were traumatized after finding his body, and many dropped out of the program, citing that it wouldn't be the same without Dan. Other students made a memorial video for him, showcasing what a loving, fun person he was. His peers mourned him and considered shutting down the program, as they felt like he was the heart of the Culinary Institute. And, like she had planned, Nancy was being tended to by their friends and family. She began to talk to them more openly about her financial issues, stating that the house she shared with Dan was about to be foreclosed on, and that without him, she was scrambling to keep things together. People were shocked to find out how little money the couple seemed to have, as Dan had always seemed so put together and carefree. But Nancy rebutted by stating that the cost of the funeral was going to bankrupt her. A memorial service was done outside of the Culinary Institute, and hundreds gathered to honor Dan. And while everyone was upset, people noticed that Nancy seemed to be smiling to herself at inappropriate times. However, those who knew the couple defended her, stating that she was grieving in her own unique way.
One of my grandmas is
As
still
for
alive,
the
but we're
crime,
not
The
really
police
close.
were at a loss. The murder didn't make sense. Dan had money in his bank
So
cards,
it's always
in
lovely
his
to
wallet,
hear
and
people's
nothing was
stories
taken
of
from
being
him
close
or
with their
from the crime scene.
grandparents. I
The
always love
institute
hearing
was
about
equipped
it.
with plenty of expensive items, yet they remained completely untouched. There wasn't a struggle at the scene, and it appeared that someone had followed Dan in
Hydrate?
just to
Don't mind
shoot
if I
him
do.
and then leave. But no one
Anything
had
to
any
fill my
motive to
belly
kill
right
Dan.
now.
Senseless acts of violence like this, where there was no motive at all, were rare. And rarer still was it happening to such a nice, well-liked
3
person.
wins in
The
Fortnite.
police immediately were
Nice.
at a loss, unsure of how to proceed.
How many games did you play?
There appeared to be little to no evidence of anything that would have led to this conclusion. That is, until 2 days after the murder, when Nancy reached out to the police and asked that they provide her a statement that she wasn't a suspect in her husband's murder, so she could cash in his life insurance. The questions struck them as odd, as he had just died, and they had barely started their investigation. They were still in the process of combing through hours of CCTV footage from around the institute, as it didn't have any security cameras on site, and they couldn't very well see that anyone was above suspicion. Nancy insisted, though, that she needed the money as quickly as possible, and implored them to give her a written statement, which they refused. Upon looking more closely into Dan's life, they found that he had multiple, incredibly high life insurance policies taken out on him by Nancy through her job as an agent. Despite being in dire straits financially, Nancy had signed Dan up for multiple policies, which they had to pay over $1,000 a month on. Dan dying in the manner that he did
What's a
meant that
treacle?
she would be the sole beneficiary of one $800,000 policy,
Oh my
and
God,
another
that's
that
so
was well
cute.
over $1 million. Not to mention the fact that because
He
Dan
is a
died
sweet
at
kitty
work,
baby. I love
she was
him.
entitled to workman's compensation from his job. Nancy's behavior and the massive windfall she was about to receive struck the police as suspicious.
Okay,
but it
bye.
was days later when they realized that Nancy might have been the one to have killed her husband, as the police combed through thousands of hours of footage from security cameras of establishments around the Culinary Institute. One car stuck out amidst the rest, Nancy's. Her minivan was seen multiple times in the
She used
area
her own
prior to
car?
Dan's murder. Then directly after, according to Nancy's own statement given to
A
the police
pedal
the
machine.
day of the
Okay,
crime,
I know what you're talking.
that
My mom
couldn't be
had
possible.
one.
When the police
I don't
had
know what
spoken
happened
to
to it
Nancy,
after she died.
told them that she'd been home all day when she got a call about a shooting in the area. She stated she hadn't been told who was hurt, and she assumed Dan was fine. She likewise called Dan's mother, Karen, that she had just woken up to the news that someone had been shot at the school and hadn't gotten dressed yet. At the same time, her son-in-law mentioned that morning he hadn't been able to get a hold of her until after his father was killed, despite calling her in the hours before. Nancy had given herself an alibi, one that she thought was rock solid, but she hadn't believed that the CCTV for Portland would be able to definitely show her driving around the area of the
That
shooting.
is
Nancy's van was caught
Never
multiple
your
times,
own
and
car.
it appeared as if she were inside of it. The van was still in her possession after all.
People
and she
are gonna
stated
fucking-
that there was no one else who had the keys. With this piece of information under their belt, they continued to look into Nancy, albeit quietly.
People are gonna
When
submit
Nancy
their
had
fucking
initially been
security footage
interrogated,
and
the
shit, you
police
dumb
asked her
bitch.
if they owned any
Jeez
guns,
Louise.
to which, surprisingly, she said yes. Everyone who
Also,
knew
I didn't call her
Nancy
bitch
and
because
Dan
she's a lady.
knew that
I
they
called her
weren't
bitch
gun
because
people.
she's a
Dan
bitch.
especially felt uneasy around the weapons.
I would have
But while
said
on a
dumb
trip to
bitch if it
Florida,
was a gay
Nancy made the
relationship
case
too.
that they should get one just
Or
for
if this was
protection.
a
Dan felt
husband
uneasy
that
about
killed
the
a wife,
purchase,
for
but
what it's
Nancy
worth.
insisted,
Hello,
saying that it
Silver
would be
Owl
helpful with her
Leatherworks.
writing, as
How
she
are
wanted
you?
to write another book, this time centered around crime.
I know
The
what you
police
get up
asked Nancy
to.
to turn over the gun. That way they could rule it out as the murder
Do you
weapon.
stream?
Without even the slightest hesitation,
Do you stream your
Nancy
leatherworking?
did, and it was quickly determined that the gun had never been fired. Following that, there appeared to be no other record of Nancy or Dan owning any firearms,
fudge.
and this almost eliminated
Right here.
Nancy as a suspect. That is, until the cops looked into her internet history and they found that Nancy
Trying to
had
get
been
back into streaming, but yes, you
ghost
do.
guns.
Feel free to
Ghost
drop any
guns are
links or
defined
anything that
as
you
a
have.
privately made firearm that lacks a commercially applied serial number, rendering the weapon untraceable. The term is mostly used in the United States by gun control advocates, but it is increasingly being used by gun rights advocates and some in the firearm industry. Because home manufactured firearms for personal use is not considered to fall under the U.S. federal government's authority to regulate interstate commerce, as opposed to interstate commerce.
The
per
United States
Commerce
is so
Clause. Individuals making their own
broken.
firearms are not subject to federal or state state commercial background check regulations. Individuals making their own firearms
You have an
are not
Insta?
subject
Fucking
to
link
federal
that
or
shit.
state commercial background check regulations. Persons otherwise prohibited from owning firearms under the Gun Control Act of 1968 are still legally barred from the manufacture, transfer, or possession of firearms or ammunition, regardless of the method of manufacture or acquisition. Nancy had learned about ghost guns in her research into killing Dan. She found an article in the New York
States is
Times
so
that talked about how
broken.
people sell kits online for various gun parts. The article stated that these kits can be used to make it appear as if the gun had never been fired after a crime, and how it was incredibly easy to make it appear that the gun was entirely unused. After reading the article, on Christmas Eve 2017, Nancy's internet history showed she bought a kit off of ghostgun.com that would fit the gun she brought to the police. Upon getting this information, the police knew at once that Nancy had been behind the murder of her own husband. She had clearly been in the area of the shooting, caught on multiple cameras, had access to a weapon that matched what had been used to kill him, bought a kit online that would make it impossible to tell if the weapon had been used
If she was such a genius writer, like, why wouldn't she have thought of that? Why wouldn't she have thought about how...
the investigation was still ongoing, Nancy began telling people that her husband had been killed
would
by a homeless man or
investigate
woman
her.
in the area, and that the camps of homeless people in Portland were dangerous. She began to tell everyone who could listen that her husband's murderer was out there on the streets, and his killing had been a robbery gone wrong. Multiple
And the
people
fucking
asked her how she knew
homeless
this,
hate.
or where
This
she got this idea,
lady was
and
a
she
real
told
piece
them
of shit.
that it was the only thing that made sense. She likewise took this theory
might
to the
still be
police
alive, I don't know.
themselves, who she didn't realize were already onto her. She told them that it was likely that someone had followed Dan into the Institute that morning and had tried to rob him. Despite the evidence showing that that could not have been the case, she tried in vain to get the police to pursue that line of thinking, saying that she heard rumors of a homeless man who was bragging
Thank you for
about the
sharing.
killing afterwards.
Remember, she's
Little did she
not a
know,
brilliant
just 3
writer,
months
yeah,
after her shooting her
apparently.
husband, in what she was sure was the perfect crime, she would be arrested and charged with his murder. On this channel, we have covered one case in which the person accused of the crime has taken the stand in their own defense. And in that video, we went over why going on the stand in one's defense is risky and ultimately a bad move. In jury trials, it's imperative that the 12 people assigned to choose your fate like and trust you as a person. And the more you're able to speak, the more chances you give them to find reasons to dislike you. In certain literature written by ex-jury members, some discussed how they felt the defendant was guilty based on how they dressed and how they chewed gum.
Jesus.
Small actions and mannerisms, like not looking remorseful or sad enough, can cause members of the jury to disregard certain evidence in favor of their own intuition. That's
is
just when a person
crazy.
is sitting next to their lawyers and not speaking. The moment you open your mouth, the likelihood of you saying something that someone will take issue with skyrockets. Usually, in cases like this, a defense attorney would tell their client that going to the stand is a risky move and persuade them against it. However, because Nancy genuinely believes that she is smarter than most people around her, and she outright believes she had planned for every scenario when considering this crime,
I feel
keeping
like
her off
only
the
dumb
stand
people
is
think that they're
borderline
smarter than the
impossible.
people
like Diane
around
Downs
them.
and Tony Toad. Her belief that she can convince people to believe her lies
Not saying
is greater
all
than
dumb
the amount
people
of
think
evidence
that.
has been brought forward so
Just
far.
only
She
dumb
believes
people
that she
think
can make
that.
the evidence look circumstantial at best, and that people would be more prone
Definitely,
to believe in her
that's the first
if they
thing I've
just
seen
spoke
from
to
you,
her.
Silver
However,
Owl.
the evidence that she claims is circumstantial is anything but, given that her ex-cellmate came forward and testified that Nancy told her how she had killed her husband. Her defense team's strategy was to state that evidence was weak, couldn't have killed Dan because she loved him. When she went on the stand, that would be the sole goal of the defense. Nancy would need to appear remorseful and upset about his death, actively still grieving.
Why
even though the
would she
trial
be
would be taking
remorseful
place
if she
years
wasn't
after the
guilty?
murder.
There's a
However,
difference between
how
remorse
successful
and
she
grief.
was remains to be seen. Before I play the video of her direct examination, let me read a couple of comments from the original video of the trial. Her demeanor is repulsive. Your husband is dead and you are accused. What the heck is funny about any of this? She has totally turned me off with her laughter and trying too hard to be likable. If her lawyers would get to the damn point about anything, that might help. I have never seen a murder defendant behave as if he or she is at a reunion. She's telling stories, laughing it up. So odd. She's so arrogant she still thinks she is better at talking than the actual physical evidence against her. Let's see how she does.
Let me know if you can't hear me.
I will.
Because you can't read my lips.
Sorry.
Where'd you grow up?
I grew up in Wichita Falls, Texas.
And how big is Wichita Falls, Texas?
It's 100,000, but a lot of that is the air base.
Explains why you're so laissez-faire about fucking shooting people. Jesus. Hi, Poetry Crow. Welcome. How are you? Good to see you.
Because I wanted to take a year off, and I thought going to culinary school sounded like a whole lot more fun than saying, "Oh, I'm just taking a year off."
Really, Bungie Fox?
You saw Dan Brophy.
Oh yeah.
Tell me about it.
Culinary school in Western Culinary, which was where I was, had a program where 101 was the first class you took, and it was 6 weeks long, and you were separated out from the rest of the students. So when we joined the students, Dan had been hired either that day or the day before. So it was like we all came together.
Didn't realize that I had already made it all the way around.
If the
we are going to
defense
for
had
sure finish
practiced
this
direct
tonight.
examination with Nancy,
That's
this
hype
would
as
have been
fuck.
the first question they would have asked, and they would have implored her to be as sentimental and nostalgic as possible, using as much airy language as she could. If you were to ask for the first time you met your romantic partner in a public setting, chances are you speak about the first time you saw them in a loving way. You locked eyes across the room, they were so beautiful, it was love at first sight, and so on, are all things that people are accustomed to hearing when they're asked something like this. But Nancy is as matter-of-fact as possible, and in fact, barely mentions seeing Dan, outside of him being hired the same day she started culinary class. While this doesn't mean she is guilty or innocent, and should have little to no bearing on the actual evidence, the fact that her answer to a question about seeing her deceased husband for the first time had more to do with her than with him is something that at least one jury member is likely to notice, whether that is subconscious or not. She also appears at ease on the stand, and not as if she is upset for being on trial for a heinous crime like murder.
Had you ever met a guy anything like Dan Brophy before you met him?
No. He was unique.
Can you tell us 5 things about him, maybe 5 things that separated him from the pack for you?
Oh, yeah. She murdered the fuck out of her husband.
He was smart. He was really smart. And he was funny. I laughed all the time when I was with him, and a lot of people going, "What'd he say? What'd he say? What'd he say?" Because he was very dry in his sense of humor. He was kind. He was so kind. That probably won me over more than lots of other things might have. He not only thought outside the box. This man lived outside the box.
If only he hadn't been so kind.
He really did not operate going forward the way most of us did. But the thing I probably liked the best about him, he loved me. And if that isn't a big, I don't know, a big
boo
one item, I don't know what is, and I loved him back.
For reference, if you stand accused of murdering your husband and are asked what you loved about him, try not to say the number one reason you loved him was because he loved you. Try instead to showcase their numerous other amazing attributes, as it will show that you liked them for more than what they could simply provide for you emotionally. Nancy's response makes her appear selfish, and if her favorite things about Dan have less to do with him and more to do with her, this would easily be picked up by the jury. It should also be stated that Nancy is a writer whose main genre is romance novels. The fact that she cannot seem to state anything deep or moving about Dan and his life, which was filled with amazing moments, is deeply troubling. By this point in the trial, the jury had already heard from his son, his students, and his parents about what an amazing guy he was, how he gave back to the community, and more. The fact that his wife seems unable to speak about him with the same kind of reverence is telling.
How many years were you together?
24 years, 10 months, 2 days.
That's pretty precise. What are you measuring from?
We were friends for a couple of years before our friendship moved further. I count it from the time our friendship moved further. You can be friends with a lot of people, but it doesn't count. Once you've said we're committing to other people in other ways, then that's where I start the counting.
Her discussions about her relationship are entirely too formal for what she is trying to accomplish. If she had stated she remembers how long they were together because he was the most important person in her life, or because that was the best day of her life, the jury would sympathize with her. However, her matter-of-fact delivery that she remembers down to the day they got together, because that was when he asked her to be official, is disconcerting rather than endearing.
Did you and Dan Brophy complete each other or balance each other out?
Completely. I'm a flawed person. Dan's a flawed person. We came together and made up one really good team. His weaknesses were my strengths. My strengths tended to be his weaknesses, and together, it just fit.
So he was like really good at giving life to people then.
When the two of you were together, did you try to give him a platform from which he could do his very best work?
I did. It's
ironic because my favorite thing about Nancy is also how much
he was funny. He was lots of things, but he was also humble. And this is a man.
Hi, Lurky. How are you?
This is a man who needed a cheerleader, and I was his cheerleader. And this was not a one-way street. He was mine as well.
She was good at taking
I helped him become more known for who he
You're
was.
not wrong.
And because he would have just stayed in the
you.
shadows. He was that kind of guy, and he needed somebody to say, "Hey, this guy over here, he's really, really smart. You ought to listen to him." You know?
Nancy painting Dan as the type to stay behind in the shadows, as if he wasn't being recognized for his work prior to them meeting, is false. His family stated that they were unhappy with this characterization, as when Nancy met Dan, he was a teacher at a prestigious culinary institute and had plenty of professional accolades.
And had
We've
money.
heard a lot during this trial about Dan and his demeanor in social settings.
Mm-hmm.
Is it fair to say that Dan was socially unaware?
No. Dan was very aware. He just wasn't a big participant. He didn't need to fill in the blank space. You know, a lot of times when there's a void in the conversation, somebody absolutely feels that they have to jump in and say something.
I'm
not
that guy
Dan.
sometimes.
Dan's perfectly okay with
It depends on
silence.
how comfortable I am with somebody.
I'm sorry to say I lost the direction I was going there.
Okay,
I'm
let me
so
ask you
sorry.
this.
Quinn, that's a very good
I was supposed to be paying
point.
attention, but
Let
I
me
went
stop
off.
you.
Okay.
Let me stop you. You've been described as the one who had better social skills, or the front of the house, I think is what someone said, and that Dan was back doing the cooking or
Mm-hmm.
preparing meals or being the quiet guy to the side.
Mm-hmm.
Were there times that Dan helped you socially?
Oh, yeah. Oh. As someone said earlier, I'm a chatter, and I don't remember who said that, but I am a chatter, and I can just start running. And I never met a rabbit hole I didn't like. And there were times that Dan would come out, and he would be so subtle, and he would make this little move, and I knew I needed to calm down, back up, because he was trying to help me not run away with things.
Let me back you up.
Oh, sorry.
This move.
And actually, he did it. He did it with this hand because it was a C for chill. And it was real calm. If you were standing next to him, you wouldn't have noticed.
He sounds like such a treasure.
I
I'm
was
so
looking at
pissed
him. I
at
knew
this
exactly
lady.
what he meant.
You were on your way down a rabbit hole. He had a very subtle way of kind of trying to bring you back.
Mm-hmm.
We've heard that Dan didn't always lock doors. Is that true?
True.
We've heard that he collected stuff, lots of stuff. Is that true?
That's true.
What did you think about that?
Can't have spent long on the internet.
Well, this is a complicated answer. All right. I was perfectly okay with that. And the reason why I was perfectly okay with that is Dan didn't collect stuff that didn't mean anything. Everything he collected, he had a purpose for, or he could see a future purpose for.
Silver hour.
It wasn't like,
you're right.
You know,
she has a lot of
gathering
gall.
stuff.
She has a lot of
He
gall.
was gathering stuff that he could see.
Had to frog like 60 rows.
Maybe not today, but next week. To give you
that's
the best
worst.
example of that, I was still catering in a kitchen I didn't own when Dan encouraged me, and I did did it, started purchasing equipment. By the time I had my own kitchen, because of Dan's help on this, I was ready to go. I had all the equipment I needed. I didn't have to stop and buy equipment. Dan had the kind of vision where you could see it further down the road. And he had that vision for me, and he had that vision for himself as well.
Did Dan, did Dan tend to, well, I don't want to use that word.
Okay.
Would it be fair to say that Dan's kind of working style, at least to the untrained observer, seemed chaotic?
Oh, yeah. Even to his wife, there were times when it seemed chaotic.
Was it?
No. He knew exactly what he was doing. He had a plan to get through to the end, and you may not have thought,
no,
if you were a
Lurky,
stranger,
I'm sorry
that
to
he
hear
really knew
that.
everything was going on. But I assure you, Dan knew everything that was going on. And later on, he had started a conversation in which I thought, well, Dan wasn't even paying attention to that, but Dan knew every detail. That was not him. He knew what was going on.
You said that you were flawed and that he completed you.
Mm-hmm.
Were there parts of your personality or parts of who you were that maybe could be frustrating to Dan or exasperating to Dan?
It said earlier that he was shot.
Oh, I think so.
Without even
I
knowing
don't
there was an
think
intruder.
I'm not coming into this situation perfect by any wild stretch of the imagination. And I am a person who has been self-employed all my life. And if I see an opportunity, I tend to leap in feet first. And Dan is not like that at all. Dan is research. Okay, we'll do this. And here's how we'll do it. Me, I'm already in the middle of the water before I think, maybe a plan would have been a good idea. What do you think?
How did you guys resolve those times when maybe your imperfections were coming to the surface?
Well, we talked, every night we sat in the hot tub and we talked, and the TV wasn't on, and we were sitting there, and he was giving me guidance on my catering company and what to do, and he was telling me about his day, and the frustrations we had were relatively minor, but I don't want to jump into a rabbit hole here, but there is an issue I could go to.
That's all right. We're going to try to keep you out of the rabbit holes.
Thank you.
In the nearly 25 years that you were with this man, did you ever doubt Dan Brophy's
Hi,
commitment to you?
Mickey.
No.
Okay.
And I never doubted his
All right,
fidelity
then.
either.
Did you ever doubt your own commitment to
What
him?
you doing,
Not
bud?
once.
What's it like to be without him
Hi,
now?
sweet boy.
It's like you've lost an arm, like you're just
Well,
not
Monstro's
as good
here,
as you were
guys.
when you were with him. When you were with him, you were the best you could be.
Time to
when you were
hydrate.
together with him. And now,
Thank
it's
you,
like,
MB,
Yeah, I
for
function,
looking out for me.
but there's something missing.
What you doing, Meg?
This is something that should have been said earlier, and still, it would have been better had she phrased it in a way where she wasn't pulling focus away from her husband, as again, all of her statements about her husband's death have been about her, not him. We will fast forward a bit to a separate part of her testimony, as the defense spends an almost unreasonable amount of time going over her health in a surgery she needed to get.
Oh my
and
God,
how her and
Stupid Squatch,
Dan
I was really
lost
bad
a considerable amount
about
of money
that on
over a
TV
prolonged period of
tropes
time, which
and
she
on
stated was solely because of medical
craft.com.
issues and not her spending habits.
You and Dan made
Hi, bud.
choices
Come
early
here.
in your marriage. Is that
Come here,
right?
sweet
It
boy.
is.
Could Dan have taken a job, for instance, as an executive chef and made a lot more money?
He could have. He could have.
Well, there was testimony from the OCI folks saying that they I think they got salaries like in the $50,000 to $60,000 range, and those just never changed over the years.
That's true.
If Dan had wanted to make money,
Sorry, I'm just petting my
with
kitty
his
for a
skills
minute.
and his intelligence, and
I think that it's
and
important that you give
certainly as well known as he
your
was,
pets
could he have made a
undivided
lot of money if he
attention when
wanted to?
they
could
seek
have.
you out.
He could have, but it would.
At least for a
everything
little
is
bit.
in life is a
You know what I
trade-off,
mean?
and he would have had to have given up things that he loved, like the garden,
My
But
precious
more than anything
boy.
else,
That's
he
why we have a
loved
nice
teaching, and he was
bond.
good at it. And
That's
he
why
was
we
the
love
sort of
each other
guy
so
who, when you came out
much.
of his class,
Yeah.
you knew, you could identify the difference between rosemary and
He's
something
such a good
else. You knew your
boy.
herbs, you knew your product, and you knew your techniques. He loved teaching. He
Yeah, I'm
he
happy
loved
for you
helping
too,
people
Shardies.
who
Look
came
where
to
you
him
might have
and
ended
said,
up.
you know,
Jeez.
I'm not getting the math on this. Can you show me? So,
Rabbit holes of
so
Snopes,
yeah, he could have made a lot
Snopes
more
got me
money
a couple
doing
times.
something else. He could have
Not
been an
nearly as bad
executive
as
chef
Cracked or TV
for any
tropes.
number of
Cracked was
restaurants in
my
town.
biggest.
But
It was
we
Cracked.
chose
It was Cracked to me.
we chose happiness over anything else. And so if he's happy and he's not making as much money, that didn't bother us, you know.
It didn't bother
I
him.
was totally okay with what he contributed to the household, and the fact he wasn't working
Sure,
80 hours a
Jan.
week to bring that money in, that we were together, you know.
Throughout the testimony, in times of stress or high emotion, Nancy will shake her head. This is something that is repeated often, usually when she is on the verge of tears. When
Okay,
she is
bud.
stating facts,
I'm gonna get back
she
to
tends
work.
to keep her
I
head
love you
more
so
still.
much, sweet
However,
boy.
in this instance, where she is talking about the fact that she was happy with Dan's low salary, her head shakes. Though there isn't enough evidence to state this with any certainty, that kind of movement, being incongruent with her established mannerisms, can imply that she isn't being honest in
I
this
love you so
instance.
much.
That, aside from the fact that her friends would go on to testify that she wanted to travel and wanted more money to spend on her book research, goes against her statements being honest.
You and Dan
Narcissists never
made
think
choices
their lives
early in your
through
marriage,
well
is that
enough.
right?
It is.
Never. Hi,
Could
CD.
Dan have taken a
See you
job,
later,
for instance,
Shardies.
as an
I
executive
definitely understand.
chef
Have a good
and made a
one.
lot more money?
He could have. He could have.
Well, there was testimony from the OCI folks saying that they I think they got salaries like in the $50,000 to $60,000 range, and those just never changed over the years.
That's true.
If Dan had wanted to make money, with his skills and his
I was having such a hard
intelligence
time
and-
understanding what was going on here.
certainly as well known as he was, could he have made a lot of money if he wanted to?
He could have. He could have.
My precious
But it would.
Minky.
Everything is in life is a
You're so
trade-off, and he would have
sweet.
had to have given up things that he loved, like the garden. But more than anything else, he loved teaching, and he was good at it. And he was the sort of guy who, when you came out of his class, you knew, you could identify the difference between rosemary and something else. You knew your herbs, you knew your product, and you knew your techniques. He loved
Who
teaching.
Is she?
He loved helping
Phoebe, how
people
are you?
who came to
It's
him
good
and
to see
said,
you.
you know, I'm not getting the math on this. Can you show me?
Did this rewind?
So,
No, she
so
just
yeah,
talks
he
in
could have made a
circles.
lot more money doing something else. He could have been an executive chef for any
Chef.
number of
1,
restaurants
2,
in
3,
town.
4,
But
5,
we chose happiness over anything else. And so if he's happy
7.
and he's not making as much money, that didn't bother us, you know. I was totally okay
Oh no, Dusk
with
Shadow Fox.
what he contributed to the household, and the fact he wasn't working 80 hours a week to bring that money in, that we were together, you know.
Again, Dan's friends and family stated that he was content with his life in the Portland area, and while he would travel, he did more
Suffer
so
and lag.
for
Oh
Nancy's
no, I'm
enjoyment.
sorry. Also,
Taking
hi,
you back.
Willow.
I'm taking you back.
Thank
to
you for
back between
subbing.
2014
Thank
and
you.
2017 when the financial
No,
wheels
this
have come
tattoo
off.
isn't new
Okay.
at all.
You've had
these
this sudden
for
loss
a
of
while.
income.
I want to say that this one is like
And
2 years old
at the
now.
same time, an increase in
this one is-
expenses.
Mm-hmm.
Did
like
you think
4
that that
years
was going
old,
to cause
maybe?
the economic upheaval that it did?
No. It was kind of like dominoes.
This is
I
my
mean,
newest
one fell and then another
tattoo
fell,
right
and you're
here.
thinking, really, you can stop falling now, and it didn't.
What did you do in the beginning? What did you do personally to address this upheaval? Did you
Well-
have some Band-Aid solutions?
Yes, I did. Yes, I did. The first year was
Hi,
easy
bud.
to fix. The first year was a very small amount of money. And what we did was I wrote a life insurance policy on Dan, which immediately brought in a couple of $1,000s. The next thing I did was I borrowed money from an interest-free account that we had life insurance in, And that brought in enough money to get our house payments made, and it didn't cost us anything.
Oh,
So let's talk
he,
first about
you know
that
what?
policy,
Right before
okay?
that part, he had just
That
talked
was that a
about
policy
her
that was
like
taken
her
out in
body
November
language,
of
her
2016,
mannerisms
is that
and
right?
stuff.
That's right.
So I wonder if he was trying
And how
to
much was
like
that policy? Do you remember?
re-illustrate it, be like, watch it again. Now pay attention to how she's
250
shaking her head during
I
times
think it
of
was
stress,
200, and there was
etc.
some accidental on top of it.
And I don't remember which
You were entertaining
insurance
for guests?
expert,
No,
but it
that's
was
so
suggested
good.
that
I'm
you
glad
could
that
have
you
had
were getting some
a
social
different
time in. That's good for
$200,000
you.
policy
I'm
that
happy
would
to
have
hear
cost
that.
you less.
Yes.
You do not have
Is
to
that
be
true?
sorry about
It's
that,
true.
even remotely.
Would you have gotten a commission on it?
Not the way it was suggested, but I wouldn't have gotten a commission,
my
which would have been
precious
number
boy,
one. And number
maybe.
two, it wouldn't have happened as quickly as the policy we chose. What he suggested was that we go
Sorry,
through
my cat's on my lap.
underwriting.
And I'm just
And
trying to give him
underwriting
a little
takes
bit of
sometimes
attention.
up to 6 months to make a policy come. We didn't have 6 months. We needed it to happen today. We had financial issues, and we were doing it more for the financial issue than we were doing it so we'd have another insurance policy. So we didn't have the time to wait for fully underwritten.
Okay, so this brought a quick influx of cash into your home.
It did.
And if you continue to pay the premiums on that, or the premiums on that policy for a year, you'd be able to keep the commission?
Mm-hmm.
So was it kind of like a no interest loan?
That was exactly what it was like.
Now, let's talk about this other quick Band-Aid that you talked about, the Forester's policy. Forester's is a weird kind of policy, right?
It is.
I shouldn't call it weird. It's just unique.
It is unique.
And does it have a savings component to it?
Yes. You pay a premium. Part of it goes for life insurance. Part of it goes to a savings account. And the savings account at the time we bought it, I believe, was 5.85%. Now, real frankly, if we'd put our money in savings in the bank, we would have gotten somewhere maybe 1% of interest. This gave us 5.85, and it was required savings. You might not have noticed this, but I'm betting you did, that I am not a saver. And so being forced to save helped me, and that was what we liked best about that. Also, we're not going down that rabbit hole.
When you put money, when you paid this premium, part of it went into the savings account, part of it went toward the life insurance
an
benefit.
out
And when
by
we borrowed,
saying
we
that she
borrowed
goes
from a
down rabbit
savings account.
holes
So you're
and
actually
keeps
taking money out of your
excusing
own
herself
savings account.
from going
right.
down them when
And when you
answering
pay that back, do you
questions.
pay it back with interest?
That's very interesting.
You don't ever have to pay it back. They don't care. It's because you're continuing to have, you're continuing to put more money in each month, but they don't care if you don't pay it back. It doesn't bother them at all. I never got a done letter from them. Said really you need to pay this back. It was interest free, and we didn't pay it back.
So that was a good Band-Aid.
That was a good Band-Aid.
Through this testimony, Nancy is trying to state that the incredibly expensive life insurance policies that she took out on Dan were so that she, the insurance agent, could get commission, which she viewed as a loan. However, that is ridiculous for a fair amount of reasons, not least being the amount she would have to be making in commissions off of this policy would be less than what she would be paying monthly. In order to continue to pay these life insurance premiums, Nancy and Dan would often forego paying back their mortgage, which in turn led them to more financial troubles. Basically, Nancy put them in a worse overall position, just so Dan could have an incredibly expensive policy. I'm going to skip a significant portion of her testimony, as her lawyer dwells on how she sold life insurance, Medicaid, and the ins and outs of her job, which are by all means completely unimportant to this case, especially as in her opening testimony and throughout, she tried to emphasize how the only evidence they needed that Nancy wasn't capable of killing her husband was love.
You're a romance writer.
Yes, I am.
What kind of stuff do you write?
Romantic suspense.
And we've heard from some of the other writers about writing devices or things that writers use to write their books. What kind of
a lot
writing
of this is
devices
really
have you
outlandish.
used in the past?
Bardic, I agree with
bought?
you.
Bought or traded. For a while, I loaned some money to one of my employees, and in what I held in as their collateral was a pair of night vision goggles. I thought I got the better deal on that, real frankly. But he did come up with the money, and I had to give them back.
Did those night vision goggles make it into, or whatever we call them, night vision?
Oh, yeah.
Did they make it into one of your books?
Oh, yeah. And I learned a lot about night vision goggles.
What other kinds of things have you?
What a weird fucking thing for a person to say out loud.
Well,
just under any circumstance.
We had expensive handcuffs.
I learned a lot about night
real
vision
handcuffs.
goggles.
We had fur-lined handcuffs. We had, in fact, we had a couple of sets of those. We had, what else? Oh, we took a trip to Montana because I wanted to see some property that I thought would be a good location to set a story in that I never wrote. What else have I bought? Oh, man.
What about binoculars?
Oh, yeah. We have a really nice set of binoculars, which started out as a writing tool, and as I moved on, they became a tool we held on to.
Okay. Did you spend a lot of money on your writing?
Yes, I did.
Did that bother Dan?
Not at all.
Dan, did Dan spend a little extra money on his cooking?
He did.
Did Dan have some really nice copper cookware?
So nice that when they were filming Grimm's TV show here, they called us and asked us if they could rent it from us. And we said, yes, you know.
And was that something that Dan just wanted? He just wanted it. He just wanted it.
He wanted it, but we made a concession on how we bought it.
How'd you buy it?
Our birthdays are 9 days apart. And so
that's
every
so
year
nice,
for our birthdays,
Willow.
rather than
Thank you
buying,
for thinking of me.
each other a gift, we bought a couple.
That's really nice.
Is that you built
I
that
appreciate
collection of
you.
Dan's favorite cookware over a period of time?
Yes.
Can you describe just generally your writing process, your creative process?
I can. A lot of people plot more than I do. But what I do is I sit down and I like to have the story start to formulate. I like to know who all the characters are. I like to know what's known as GMC, goals, motivation, and conflict are. I like to work that through in my mind long before I put a pencil to a paper, or in my case, fingers to a keyboard. So I frequently have a large part of my story written in my mind before I ever sit down. And that means you spend a lot of time staring off into space. You spend a lot of time giving automatic answers to people who are thinking, you're not listening to a word I'm saying. You just kind of sit there and work it through.
This story is
your Medicare
wild,
practice took
Willow.
you talked about driving all these different places.
Right.
Did that bother you?
Oh, not at all.
Why not?
Because it was meditative for me to drive, because most of the time I'm thinking about my plot.
Excuse me. So sorry.
Almost inevitably, I have a notebook on the car open with a pen where I'm writing along and driving along and jotting things down.
Okay, we're going to really quick break for our first commercial here. Everybody hang tight. We'll be right back. Don't go anywhere. We'll be back in 3 to 5 minutes. I'm just going to get myself some coffee. I'm breaking down and getting the coffee because I want it. I want coffee. I'll be right back. Hello, hello. I'm back. Apologies for the break there. Actually, I'm not sorry. This is how I make money. But, you know, I'm sorry that it has to come to that. Anyway, where are we here? We can stop the Spotify. I love it when it fucking comes together like that. That feels good. And now we do live scene. Okay. And we're all back to normal here. Excellent. Okay. Can I get 3 readies in chat, please? All right. Excellent. Here we go.
I want to shift again and talk about firearms.
Okay.
In 2017.
Oh, don't cry.
Did
That's
the seed
okay.
of a new story
Thank you
come
so
to
much.
you?
I appreciate that a lot.
And how did that come to be?
I read an article about a guy in California who bought a gun online, put it together, and killed his family. And I am amazed by this. I'm amazed you're able to do this. But I'm sitting there thinking, you know, what if it was a woman who was afraid? What if it was a woman who bought the gun online or bought gun pieces online and put them together to protect herself? And so once I'd kind of flipped the story in my mind, I started building it. Now, the cool thing about the article, and there was other articles that followed it, was that it had links in it. And the links took me to various sites that showed me what was available.
Sometime in November.
Hi, Clara. How are
2017.
you?
Is
It's
that
good to
the
see
article
you.
You're talking about.
Yes.
And the links that you're talking about, do you remember what they were to?
One was to ghostguns.com and one was to Ghost Gunner, something. There was another similar title to it.
Okay. Did you go there after reading that article? Did you go there?
I did.
Before you read that article, did you know that guns could come in kits?
No.
So as you're thinking about this story in the beginning, how did you imagine it would come together?
What I really thought is, when I was thinking about it, was that you would buy pieces one place or another. Maybe gun shops had them. Maybe gun show people. Maybe you bought them online. But I was thinking, there's got to be these pieces available where you could put a gun together. And then,
This is a suave
behold,
live.
there are kits. You don't have to go and shop everywhere.
Okay.
You just.
So
Sorry.
was
Oh,
that a challenge
Clara.
in the beginning, trying to figure out? Well, let me back up. The story that
May
you
Alanis
had.
Morissette
How
have
did the gun
mercy
parts
upon
fit
your
into
soul.
the story arc?
Well, that gets to be really important. The way I was going to write the story was each month a piece would come to her in the mail, and she would. So that would be the beginning. And as the gun built,
wouldn't
so did
download
the
a gun.
story arc. And so did her character arc. And what did you learn from putting a gun together? And how did it compare to your life? How does that solve some of your problems as you're working through them?
So it was piece by piece, chapter by chapter.
That's how.
But did you know what pieces to put into your story before you found out about gun kits?
No, but I figured that I would research it. I mean, in detail. People love the internet, but real frankly, I don't know a writer who doesn't have a library card. And I don't know a writer who doesn't go to the public library to look up what they want. Yes, it's online, but it's not necessarily correct online. It's just online.
Okay, so let's go back to the New York Times article that had the links in it. How did you use that article, or how did you use the links?
Ghost guns had more appeal to me, So I went back to that site 2 or
Didn't
3
realize
times.
guns could be custom built in
And,
similar fashion to
I will
PCs.
say
Oh yeah,
that,
Rabbit. Also, welcome. Everybody make sure
sometimes
that
my lack
Rabbit of
of
Moon
totally
feels
planning
welcome. Thanks so
can
much for
be a
joining us.
problem. But it was,
If you like creepy
but
shit and crochet,
they made it
this
sound
is
like
the
it was
place
really
for
easy
you.
to put this gun together.
Also, butts. We
Was
like
there
butts
was there a
here.
video on that
And
site?
cussing.
There was a link to
We're
a
an
video.
eclectic group,
Okay, what
okay?
was the- can you
But
remember what the
mostly
video
it's
was
creepy
about?
shit and crochet.
It was about how easy it was to put this gun together. Yo ho ho! Some guy whipped it out and got it together, and it was just nothing. I mean, it was harder than Legos, but not much, according to this video.
Okay, so you looked in November of 2017 at this site.
Right?
Did you buy a gun kit?
I did.
No, in November. Did you buy a gun kit?
Oh, I didn't buy a gun kit then. No,
Okay.
I went back and forth on buying the gun kit.
How many times do you think you went to that site before you bought a gun kit?
Oh,
If
I'll
you
bet
remember.
7 to 10.
Really?
Nancy went back to the site
Yeah,
twice.
she murdered her
The
husband.
first time
yes.
she went was in
She's
November,
an author
and the second
who
time
murdered
was
her
on Christmas Eve,
husband
2017,
in a way that
when
she
purchased
wrote
the gun
about
kit.
murdering
Based
husbands.
on her work, the defense saying she
She
was
wrote,
using the gun kit website for research
romance
was a very
suspense-
obvious line of reasoning as to why she
suspenseful
would have
romance
bought it.
novels,
However, she
and
never brought up
self-published
the
on
purchase to the
Amazon.
police when they asked to see her weapon. She never spoke to anyone about the purchase, and likewise, there is no evidence that she was writing a book in which a gun kit was described or present. When asked to provide transcripts, Nancy said her writing method was so inward that she hadn't made any.
Are they gonna find evidence that that's
We saw a
incorrect?
couple
I
of
feel like there's
different,
gonna be all kinds of
There've
notes
been
for
reference
other
to a
stories.
couple of different YouTubes or videos that you watched. And did you watch them with us? Do you remember seeing them real time?
Yeah, I had seen them before. It wasn't a total surprise to me.
Yeah, if this was research, why is she buying one? She did cover her
Let's
ass
shift
on that. She
gears
said
again.
that
I
she
wanna
bought
talk
lots
about
of things that so that
the
she
week
could like
before
have
Dan Brophy
firsthand
died.
experience with it.
Okay.
On the morning of May 26th
Yes,
of 2018,
Get my hair out of my fucking
did Dan
face.
injure himself?
he did.
What did he do?
He had decided to take a shower downstairs so it wouldn't wake me up. And he took a shower, and he must have twisted or jerked this glass shower door we had because it suddenly shattered into a million little pieces. And I didn't hear it shatter upstairs, but Dan came upstairs and he said, "We've got a problem." And his palms were bleeding, and apparently the bottom of his feet were bleeding. So he'd gotten out of the shower and managed to make it upstairs. He was doing a class. He wasn't doing a class. He was on a panel for a class at PCC that day. So I said, "We got to go to the hospital." So he has Kaiser insurance, and we went to a Kaiser hospital that was as close to PCC as we could get.
America's
and,
broken.
And he ended up having stitches.
Many have theorized that this incident was an attempt on Dan's life that didn't work. How a shower door would suddenly break into a million pieces and come off without cause makes little to no sense.
Okay, so while Dan was getting cared for
We
at
see
the-
videos
at the
of that
medical
shit happening
center,
all the
right?
time.
What did you do?
On TikTok and
I
shit.
got in the car and drove over to PCC, and he'd given me a map as to
Like
where to go.
obviously she did it, and I'm
I
not
went up
trying
to where
to
the panel
defend
was,
her,
and I
but
said,
like
I know Dan Brophy's supposed
let's
to be
not
here
pretend
right now,
that
but
showers
he's,
don't break
having
sometimes.
this medical procedure,
Let's
and he'll be here as fast as
lend
he can.
credence
And they were all
to
real relaxed, and they
the
said, "That's great.
prosecution
When he gets here, he gets
by
here."
not saying
And so then I drove
stupid
back
shit,
over
maybe.
to Kaiser, picked Dan up, who was finished
I can't
post
believe-
then, and we went
Well,
over
and
there.
I'm not putting that
he
on
went to his panel.
What did
the
you do
dreading
while
guy.
Dan was
Fuck, I
giving his
can't think of his
presentation?
name right now.
He was in the what I would
whatever.
call
I'm
the
not gonna
Student
dox him
Union
anyway,
building,
but
although I'm sure it has a
I'm-
different name. And so in the
Fuck
bottom
me.
floor, there's a
I don't think that it's his
cafeteria
fault. I
type
imagine
place
that
and
that's
a
like
lounge
in
where you can sit.
the literature
And
about
I was
this case.
going through my emails. I had my computer with me, and I was going through my emails, and
Did you get an email that excited you?
I did.
What was
I
it?
did. In the Witches trilogy, I had gotten an email from an editor saying that they would like to look at it.
I want to show you what. I'm sorry.
Oh, go ahead.
Show you what's been marked as Defendant's Exhibit 209.
Is that the email that you opened up?
That is, and I misspoke. I said it was from an editor. It was from an agent.
And I think I misspoke because I said it was the 26th and not the 25th.
Oh, okay. Yes.
Quid pro quo.
And so it's an email. It's an email that tells me how to submit it because they would like to see it.
Okay. Thank you, Mr. Britton. I don't remember if this has been admitted, but if not, the defense would move to admit Exhibit 209.
Not sure either. Does the state object?
I think it's been pre-admitted, but we don't have an objection.
All right. It may have been, but in abundance of caution,
Cool legal
209 will be
system,
admitted if
America.
It hasn't already.
I confess to losing track.
Okay.
Over the next several days, over the next week.
This is a murder
Where was your
trial.
head?
Oh, I'm trying to shape the story up to send it to this agent.
She
It's
confessed.
a trilogy,
What?
and I'm finished with book 1, although it needs editing again. I'm finished with book 2, and I'm
Yeah,
60%
the
through with book 3. So I have
Prince
to make sure
Philip's
that I got everything
drop
I
or
need
something like that. Prince
in
something.
book 1.
I wanted to say Prince
that I'm
Albert,
gonna
but
need in
that's
book
because
3.
I'm
I know
a
that doesn't make
pervert
sense,
and
but you
Dick
live and die by the
Pearsons.
first book. You can't suddenly introduce
clearly
something
a
in
witch.
book
Why
3
hasn't she been
that
sentenced to
because you need
execution
it
already?
if you didn't refer to it in book 1. So what I was doing was
Stop, Quinn.
trying to finish my story, trying to get the first story together so
Prince
I can send it to
Rupert.
them.
That's right.
Reading
that's
it
right.
through one more time to make sure there wasn't something stupid that stood out in it.
Was there something stupid that stood out in it?
Those are
There's
cool.
always something stupid that stands out in it. That's, half of writing.
They're worthless.
But
they're
you
cool.
realize that after you've looked
Or
at the
not
story
worthless,
25
but, like,
times, you misspelled the
useless.
title,
Like they wouldn't make a
it's
great
just one of those things that
decoration.
happens.
They have
Was
no
there a plot
function.
hole in, I
They're
think it was
just
the third witch's
neat.
book?
There was a huge plot hole, and it had to do
Magical
with
thing.
bending time and bending light. Bending light. And I was
shit.
frantically trying to figure out how
We're
to
so fucking
bend
close to
light
done with this
in a
shirt,
tunnel,
y'all. We're like
uh,
inches away.
and get my plot moving along. And there was several plot holes with it, but I was working on it night and day.
Okay.
I would say 97% of my
I don't know
time
how
was
long we've
spent
been
on
working
these
on this shirt, but
characters.
it's been way
Nancy
too
is
long, and I'm
passionate
so
when talking
excited
about
that
her
it's almost
books.
done.
She clearly takes pride in what she does in the worlds she creates.
Wait.
But this is the most emotion
one.
she has shown thus far in the trial. When recounting moments of happiness and joy with her deceased spouse, she is reserved and aloof. But here, talking about an agent reaching out to her involving her books, she displays an incredible amount of joy and emotion, meaning she is capable of
I do think
displaying
that this is
She just
credible
doesn't
evidence
when talking about Dan. Before going any
psychologically
further, I
in a
should
big
also
way.
point out how Nancy's ability to recall entire conversations
But that's
and
like my
periods of
opinion
time
as a
has been impeccable
non-expert,
so far
just
in the
as
trial.
somebody who, like,
She has recalled
watches
things
court
from over
cases
20
and
years
stuff a
ago
lot.
with relative ease, and will continue to do so for everything, sans the morning
I'm also a
that Dan
slow
died.
learner,
She goes
though,
on
so,
to state
like-
that she is slowly losing her memory with age, but in every other story she has told, she has been clear, focused, and able to remember small details.
When you say working on it night and day, were you working on it on your computer, working on it in your head, working on it in a combo of those?
All those above. I'm jotting notes places. I'm doing everything I can do to put this story together
Welcome fully, Dusk.
Were you completely immersed in that story?
completely.
On June 1st, the day before Dan died, do you remember what you did?
It's illegal to do that, Bungie Fox.
Yes. We met for breakfast.
For shame.
Who's we?
Dan and I met for breakfast. He had gone down to school to drop off his carts. Or at least I assume right now that that's where he'd gone down to do that. But he had gone down to school to do something. We met at the Six Corners Cafe,
Crimes.
which is this little breakfast
That's
place
cute.
that we like to go to that's had about 1,800 different names. But it's at the intersection of Shoals Ferry.
Beaverton Hill Highway.
Yeah,
Let me help.
thank you.
What'd you do after that?
I wish the prosecutor would
we
shout, she's a witch. Get the
Drove
witch.
back toward our house and stopped at St. Matthew's
Like,
rummage
I mean,
sale.
you might be
And
onto
there's
something,
a
though,
Lutheran
Quinn.
church that has
Straight
this great
up.
rummage sale every year, and we had talked about going to it, and we went.
Did you find anything at the rummage sale?
We did.
What was it?
Well, for Nathaniel, Dan had found a food dehydrator. And so I know that he had been in contact with Nathaniel, asking him if he wanted a food dehydrator
1,
before
2,
he bought
3,
it for
4,
him. And
5, 6,
then
7,
I had
8,
found
9. Why is
this
there only
kind
9?
of adorable little toy box
Oh.
that was a little beaten up. The wood was
Splut.
fine. The paint job needed serious work. And I thought, great, this is perfect. So I bought this little toy box because Nathaniel's wife was pregnant, and we had a new baby on the way, and he had another daughter who was. I thought this would work out really well for them, so I bought this toy box.
Now, is that something that you did?
Yes.
Took things like that and restored them or refinished
Yes.
them?
It's very.
Was she a
It's
hoarder?
a great thing to do when you're a writer because you don't have to think about a lot of the stuff you do.
Was their house
I mean, when
just
you're
full of
slapping
shit
gray
she
paint
bought?
on something because you need a primer coat, you can do that in the dark. Well, you can't, but you know what I'm
The
saying?
Witch's
You don't
Trilogy
have to
used
pay
sorcery
attention
to
to every brush
sabotage a
stroke.
shower door.
It's very meditative. You can think about your story.
So when you got home, did you actually do that? Start to
Quinn,
begin
you're
did.
goofy and I love you.
chest?
I did.
And were you still pretty immersed in your story?
Yes.
What were you thinking
If she's
about
a
when you
hoarder, I
went to
have a
sleep
little
that night?
bit
Or did you
more
go to sleep?
sympathy for her than
Well,
I did before.
it was another night where I wasn't sleeping well.
'Cause
and
that shit doesn't
part
come
of that
out
I
of
blame on
nowhere.
age, but
You
part
know
of
what
it
I
I blame
mean?
because I am trying
Rabbit
to get
of
this
Moon,
story
thank you so
solved
much for the follow.
so I
I
can move
appreciate
on,
it very
you
much.
know, so I can
Very
get this thing
nice.
off. Because if it's
Thank
got
you.
I don't want to be the slow one on the end of somebody who says, we'll publish your story for you. I want to be the one who's there and ready. So that was what I was doing, was, you know, working through how to bend light.
You said that you had trouble sleeping. Did you ever get to sleep?
It was probably off and on.
Okay. Was there a time in the night that you got up to go to the bathroom?
Yes, 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 but I think what you're referring to
It was
was
a big greasy
I came to bed
dump.
much later than Dan because I was working downstairs on some of this.
I remember
and
on
there was,
account of the
water
greasy
on the
dump I
floor.
took.
And I realized we had a leak under the sink, and I pulled up the wet towels and threw them in the sink and what have you.
Does Dan usually get up earlier than you?
Much.
And do you, I mean, does he get up the same time every day, or would you get?
I would say within a 30-minute time frame, he gets up the same time every day.
Okay.
Even on days he doesn't have class, he still gets up early.
God, I wish I was a morning person. I wish that so
June
much.
2nd, though, he had class.
He had class.
And June 2nd, he had not just class, but a special class, live fire. Is that right?
Yes. Yes.
What's the first thing you remember about the morning of June 2nd? Remember waking up?
She definitely
do.
was struggling with some
And I'm
depression.
looking at Dan, who's leaning over the sink,
She
looking
like
at wet towels.
was
going,
yearning
"What
for
are these wet towels
adventure
here
and
for?"
shit. To the point where she killed her husband. She was
When you
like
saw
seeking
that,
out
do you know
retail
whether
therapy.
Dan had already
It
had
makes
a shower,
sense.
or whether he was
I
planning
like. I'm
to
never
have a
going to
shower.
have full on
don't
empathy for
know.
somebody who.
I just
Well,
don't
yes, I am. I do
Nancy's
have full on
demeanor when
empathy.
describing
It
seeing
doesn't
her husband for
excuse
the last
that
time
she
on the
killed
day he
her
died
husband.
is incredibly off-putting. At times, due to her quick response, she seems combative. This statement and
Okay,
emotion from
what?
her coming off so swiftly after she avidly recounted the ins and outs of the book she was working on is illuminating. It's clear that Dan ranks below her books in terms of joy they bring her. Even still, her lack of emotion goes against what the jury has been told. That said, the defense is going to go further in order to get Nancy to display the proper emotion about Dan. Let's see if it's successful.
What's the next thing you remember?
Him going downstairs with the wet towls.
You know where you were when you
I was
Saw
still
that?
in bed.
Okay. What's the next thing you remember?
I leaped up out of bed and put on as minimal clothes as I could.
You say minimal clothes, what do you mean?
I mean, tights and flip-flops. I already had a nightshirt on. And
On most Saturdays, or most days when you don't have to go to work,
Fudge.
mhm,
when you don't have to
Fudge
go to a
Dugans.
Medicare kiosk,
mhm.
how would you spend your mornings?
I'd go get coffee at Starbucks, and I'd come home and get back in bed and write.
How many mornings
What a life. That sounds great.
in the last several years did you go without
I
a
wish I was
Starbucks?
creative enough to be an
Oh,
author.
not many
I feel
at
like
all.
I could write really
Dan
good
and I used to
smut,
joke that we were pretty sure we were building a retirement home for this guy.
but
So
I wouldn't
typically
want
on
to
a
make
morning you
a
would-
living.
that you didn't
Like
have to
I don't
be at
know.
work.
I
You'd
feel
get
like
up,
it would not be fun to make a living out of that.
You say you would leave your nightshirt on?
Yeah. You know, who's going to see me? I'm running to Starbucks. I'm going
Yeah,
to the
Quinn,
drive-in. I'm coming
agree.
back home.
And then writing?
And then writing.
You remember putting pants on or tights on.
Right?
Do you remember anything else from that morning?
No. No. The next thing I remember from that morning
Oh no.
is the phone ringing and it being Maxine.
And that's
Oh.
Maxine Borcherding.
Yes, it is.
We heard from her earlier in the trial.
We did.
And where were you when Maxine called?
I was in bed writing.
That's damning, bud.
What did Maxine have to say?
She said, "Do you know what's going on at the school?" And I said, "No, what?" And she told me about the fact that Potluck in the park had called her, and there was some sort of police interaction going on down there.
I should definitely write a romance novel.
And so I said, "Let me call
Y'all
Dan,
ain't
I'll
even
call you
ever seen
back."
the way that I sext.
So I
It's
called
good.
Dan.
I'm good at it.
And he didn't answer, and I texted him, and I called Maxine back and said, "I'm not getting an answer."
When Maxine
What
called
did she
you,
say? I
she
missed
talk
it.
to you
It's not
some
about
sort
what
of
she
a
said.
news
It's about
report?
what she didn't
She
say.
did.
She didn't
said,
say anything about having
it's on the
seen
news.
or said
And I
goodbye
said,
to her
okay.
husband
So
that day.
the whole time I'm dialing Dan, I'm flipping channels on the news.
Didn't get
to-
emotional
to
about
make
the
to
last time
see
she ever saw
if
him
I can
alive,
see anything at all that tells
etc.
me what's going on.
Okay, so you talked to Maxine, and then you try to reach Dan.
Mm-hmm.
Do you know how you tried to reach
Doctor,
him?
how many points for
I know I called him,
Write her romance
and
novel. It'd
I
be
know
a
he
Let's
lot.
do this. Why didn't you
Oh.
leave a message if you called him?
I may have, but I don't think I did, because if he doesn't answer his phone, he's going to see it's me and he'll call back. And I texted him, because usually he's better at texting, particularly when he's got a class going on, and he didn't respond. And I talked
publish
to
your
Maxine and
sex.
said, "I don't think I'm going down there," because you know how you can hear your husband laughing in your mind, where you're saying, "Yes, I came down
Those
to
are
rescue
too
you,"
private.
and
They're
he's
between
going,
me
"What do you
and my
think? It had
lovers
been
and
a
all of my
problem, I would've called
girlfriends."
you. You know this. And so I'm hearing this in the back of my mind, but at the same time, I'm worried that this text message is going unanswered, and there's police there. You know, this is not looking good. So,
At some point before you called your mother-in-law,
mm-hmm.
did you have any information about what
This
any
lady's
more details
mother-in-law
about
is
what was going on
alive?
at the
Wow.
school?
Somewhere in there, I had learned there was shooting.
My under eyes look
At
exactly
that
like hers,
point,
by the
I
way.
wasn't sure that I knew there was somebody was
Diary
dead,
of a sexter.
or even somebody was injured. But I knew there had been a shooting.
What did you do then?
I called my mother-in-law, and Karen Brophy is a sweet, sweet woman, but she also has a core of steel, and I have looked to her to be the mother that I lost, because
What did you say to
Oof,
Karen Brophy?
this is hurting my heart.
I said, "I don't even know why I'm calling you. It's just that I wanted somebody to worry besides me." And
So nice, thank you.
and Karen came back and said, I'm sending Jack down. You go down, and I will pray." And I thought, okay, that's a plan. We'll do that. And when we hung up, I immediately put on clothes and went down.
Okay. No, I know there's been some confusion about this. Did
Did Karen Brophy have to call you another time to prod you to go?
No, she did call me another time. She and I agreed there were 3 phone calls. She called me, the next time she called me, I was standing in front of the police, and she calls me and says, "What's happening?"
This is untrue. Karen had testified that morning of June 2nd, after Nancy had called her to inform her that there was some sort of incident at the Institute. Nancy stated she didn't want to go because it was probably nothing. Karen agreed, not knowing
I feel so
the
bad
details
for all of the
what was
wonderful
going
Karens
on.
of
Their
the
second
world.
phone call was Nancy relaying to Karen that there was a shooting, but she didn't want to go because she would be in the way. Karen prodded her to go, and it was only after Karen stated that she needed to be there that Nancy left her house. It also should be noted that Nancy told her mother-in-law that Dan had been the one shot prior to the police telling her, something that could only be true if she had shot him herself. Also, Nancy stating here that she went to get Starbucks that morning after Dan left, but then immediately went back to sleep and doesn't remember anything before she got the call, is her trying to make up for the fact that her car was seen in the area. She gave a statement to the police the same day stating that she had not left the house after Dan left.
That is
which
cool,
is in direct
Moss.
contrast with the news story she is peddling.
5.
Okay, so I want to back up a little bit.
Sure.
You decide to go down to OCI.
I do.
Did you have to change your clothes? What'd you do?
Well, I'm still in a nightshirt. So yeah, I had to put on clothes. I may run to Starbucks in a nightshirt, but most of the time I'm not running around downtown in pajamas. And so
I don't see why not.
Put on clothes, and I didn't take a
I go out
shower.
in pajamas all the goddamn time.
And
I'm
I
not
know
gonna
that
lie
because
to you.
I had paint on my hands.
I'm not getting
and,
dressed up for the people at fucking
I
Sobeys,
leaped into the car,
Walmart. I'm not
and
doing it.
hitting the buttons
Sorry.
as I'm driving, trying to find more news reports. Now, I don't know exactly when I figured it out, but I knew by the time I got to school there had been a fatality.
I feel like you would
Describe
start
just
to
kind of
break
help-
up a little
help the
bit and
jury
maybe not
understand what
say
you're
a
feeling, what's
fatality.
going on in your head as
Maybe
you're driving
say
to OCI.
somebody had been killed. and
feeling-
maybe be crying.
You know that feeling in your throat?
I'm a poet.
where
I'm new to
you
reciting my poetry.
can't swallow
I'm
and
not
you
good
think
with
you want to
technology.
throw
I was
up and
wondering
you aren't
perhaps you would
throwing
like
up.
to listen.
And I
If I bothered by
realized that
asking, I
my
apologize
hands
in
hurt, and I
advance.
looked down
Why
and I
don't you
realized my
put-
hands hurt because I'm white knuckling
Really quick, I'm gonna
the,
pause
steering
this
wheel,
and address
with one
that.
hand as I'm pushing.
I feel like Poetry Crow. I love when people share their art in my channel. I love that you guys want to show me the stuff that you get up to. I think that that is neat and swell, and I love it. So we have a Discord. It's just discord.gg/fartslide. But it's really important that you do the https:// and then discord.gg/fartslide. That'll get you to my server. And then you have to wait 10 minutes. You have to be a member for 10 minutes before it will let you type. I'm so sorry. I just completely brain farted in the middle of saying stuff to you. Fuck. I'm so sorry. We have a sharing channel within the Discord for you to promote yourself. It's called Promote Yourself. So if you wanted to post stuff there, I would be willing to listen to it. I'm not going to listen to it on my channel, but I would be willing to listen to it if you put it in there. Yeah, absolutely. Tag me. And if Ahmad says anything about you tagging me, I will let them know, and you can let them know if I don't get to it right away that I told you to tag me in it, because they know that I tell people to tag me in things. It's shirts and leggings all day, no bra. I have, for the most part, just sworn off bras. I wear sports bras when I have to wear a bra, and then when I want to look really cute, I have a couple of strappy bras that I like to wear if you can see my bra. But literally 95% of the time I am not wearing a bra. I just don't do it. I go out in public that way. I don't care. If somebody fucking sexualizes me, they need to be keeping their eyes off of my fucking chest if they have a problem. Like, straight up. I don't mind if you look, but if you get all offended and pissed off about what you see, then we have problems. Like, I will be very upset if somebody is ever just like, have some decency or whatever. Like, I will give you the verbal smackdown. I will tell you how much of a pervert you are. And I will embarrass you. I will do it. But yeah, I'm not a bra wearer. Fuck that shit. It sucks so hard. Anyway, I hope that's helpful to you, Poetry Crow. I would love to hear your art. And I would love for you to share it with us. Okay. We have 40 people in here. Can I get 4 readies, please? In chat, and then we will keep this train rolling. Oh, good golly. Excellent. Thank you all.
The buttons with the other, and I'm feeling really mixed.
Thank you for sharing with us.
Dan is going to laugh, but that's the worst that can happen.
Truly,
the best that can happen, I can get down there and everything will be okay and everything will be fine and what have you. But the fact that I still have an unanswered text from Dan, the fact I have an unanswered phone call from Dan, and there's police everywhere down there, and there's been a fatality. You know, I am not thinking things look good. I am working myself up into a state without knowing anything. And I can also hear Dan in the background going, well, you know what we say, it's never too early to panic. And I know that I'm doing that, but I can't seem to stop myself from panicking at this point.
When you got to OCI, what did you do?
Corsets are so comfortable if you wear them right.
I
really love being bound.
I
think that it's very comfortable.
And
I think that comes from a lot of
Jefferson.
Unhealthy body image
yellow police
stuff,
tape all the way across.
But
so when you get down to Jefferson,
really just
you
enjoy
absolutely have to turn on what street is it?
Really tight
17th.
Stuff.
You absolutely have to turn on 17th because the police aren't letting you through. And there's a cop car right in the middle of the yellow tape. And I walk over to the cop car and I said,
not even
Nancy
in like
Brophy.
a sexual way.
He doesn't even ask what I want. He said, I want you to wait over there. And I said, okay. And I went over to where he pointed. And he said, somebody will be out to see you.
What could you see from where you were waiting?
I could see lots of people. There was lots of people milling around. But the most important people I could see milling around were the people Dan worked with. Woody Bailey, Brian Wilkie.
Boning is expensive.
All these
what about,
people are standing around. And
I've never made a corset myself.
Can you find me?
No.
What,
and he would have been with those guys.
Like
These
wire
guys
hangers?
were his friends. And I know he
The
would have
metal
been
wire
there, and he
coat
wasn't
hangers?
there, and that worried me a lot. Just a minute. Hold on. Anyway, this worries me that I'm seeing all these people who know him. It worries me that every time I look at the people who know me, they're not looking at me, they're looking down, they're looking away. And I'm thinking, this isn't good.
What happens then?
The police come, this police woman and a couple other people come and they get me, and we walk half a building, and they're saying, stand over here so you're out of the light of the media. And I said,
too
okay.
stiff.
And I'm crying. And
fair enough.
a police woman who,
I imagine
if you
guys
asked me later, I
probably
would have told you it was
thought of
100
that
pounds,
before
but
if
it
it
turns
was.
out she wasn't. Reaches out and hugs me. And that's
If it was at all viable.
when I knew.
Y'all are creative as fuck.
Just a minute. When I knew Dan was dead,
Throughout her testimony, Nancy's voice
She
goes
started
from
shaking
shaky
her
to
head.
normal to shaky again. However, in most displays of emotion like Nancy is in the midst of, being able to talk and gain composure is much more time-consuming and difficult. Nancy's ability to go from deeply upset to matter-of-fact vocally stands out as being inauthentic and forced. Pay attention to the swiftness in which Nancy will go from crying to fine in the next couple clips.
And I knew it because I don't know how often you've been hugged by the police, but I don't get hugged by the police all that often. And so this is not a good sign. And she's hugging me and I'm crying. And apparently, according to the tips woman, wailing, which didn't really horribly surprise me when she said that. And then 2 detectives walk over and said, we'd like to talk to you, and led me to the van. We're not even 5 feet from the van when Karen Brophy calls me again.
What did you say to Karen?
She said, what do you know? And I said, it's Dan. And Karen starts to wail. And I want to wail, but I'm dealing with the police who are standing right in front of me. And I have to tap everything down and said, I'll talk to you later when I'm talking to the police now. And she said, okay. So we hung up the phone. It was a very short call.
Yeah, that was the most disingenuous break
And so
I've ever heard just now. That little mini one there.
We got into the van.
Who's inside the
Not a
van
good
besides you?
look.
Well, the van has a table in the back, and so I've slid around to where I'm kind of at the very back. Detective Posey sits next to me, and Detective Merrill sits across from me, and that's who's in the van. You know.
What's going on in your head while you're sitting there?
I'm trying to pull myself together because, these guys want to talk to me and they're the police and I'm okay with that. But everything in my mind is screaming, Dan is dead. And I'm really having to struggle to get that out of the way so I can answer questions semi-intelligently when they ask me, and that's, once I went through menopause, my hands were never cold. And what I can remember is my hands
You're
were
not wrong,
ice
Stevie.
cold. And my heart was thumping, 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 thumping. And I'm probably sniveling just like I am now. And
Woof. Wouldn't have called attention to that if I was lying.
really,
just
really
saying.
wanted was for them to tell me it was a mistake. You're wrong. This is wrong. Yes, he's hurt, but he's not hurt bad. He's certainly not dead.
Did you try your best to answer their questions?
I tried. I tried to pull it together enough that I could sound like I knew what I was doing. But most of the questions that they were asking, I wasn't thinking about the questions. I was thinking about what is his routine. Okay, here's his routine. This is what he would do. I'm sure this morning was the same, except,
Whose morning do you think they wanted to know about that day? When you're talking to Detectives Posey and Merrill, whose morning did you think they were focused on? Yours or Dan's?
Oh, Dan's. I don't think they gave a rip about what I was doing.
Is that what you were trying to help them to understand? What
Yes.
Dan was probably doing?
Yes, so that maybe some weird little thing had happened and they would spot it right away and say, aha,
They asked you whether Dan owned guns and whether he might have brought a gun to school. Do you remember that?
I do. I do.
What did you think?
Agree, Bungie. 100%.
Did you get a sense of why they wanted to know that? Or did they tell you why they wanted to know that?
I just want to quickly
Why
differentiate.
they wanted to know if Dan brought a gun to school?
Because sometimes I am crying without tears.
Well, I assumed.
And when you're wavering in and out, what she's faking.
When we're talking
but
about
it's genuine, sometimes the tears don't have a chance to cut. They'll well up in your eyes
So when they
and
asked
dry
about
up.
Dan's
You know what I mean?
ownership or, did you
You'll get
think
to the
they were
point where
asking
your
about
voice is
a gun
wavering,
kit?
but the
No.
tears don't
Did you think
fall.
they were asking about gun parts?
I've definitely
No.
had that
What
more
did you
than
think
once.
they were asking about?
But
I thought
at the
they were
same
asking
time,
about the Glock was, I thought was sitting on our closet shelf. that
it's
hadn't
not a
been
thing that
messed with much since
I think would happen
since
in the case
we,
of the death of
bought it.
Josiah. You know what I mean? Like there would be
I don't want to get too far into your
nonstop
politics, but is it
buckets
fair
of
to say
tears.
that they are somewhat left of center?
I think that would be fair, yes.
Okay. And for many years, would you have told people that you are anti-gun?
I would have. My first husband was a police officer, and he had a gun collection. And we negotiated when we were married that he, in fact, would not have the gun collection in the house. I felt that strongly.
Do you have good friends and family members who are adamantly anti-gun?
I do.
Hi, Detect Magic. How are you? You don't have to answer that. You just said that you're crocheting
June
along.
2nd
Please feel free to just keep crocheting.
Would you say you were still
Good
anti-gun?
to see you, though.
No, I would say my thinking had shifted on that over the last 2 years. That the country had gone crazy, and we were having all these school shootings, and that didn't happen in the last 2 years. That's been over the last 10. But I was
been
less
pretty well
anti-gun than I
nonstop
had
since
been in the
Columbine,
past,
hey?
But I was more worried about our safety than I ever had been.
On June 2nd, after you learned that your husband had been killed with a gun, how did you feel about your decision to buy a gun?
Well, in the lighter moments, I thought it was karma kicking me in the ass. But in the heavier moments, I thought, we own a gun, and
Don't
it didn't
try to be
protect
cute
us.
in court,
We bought a
lady. What the
gun to protect
fuck?
us, and it didn't do its job. Sorry.
You told the police that...
Wait, I need to wait just a
Sure,
minute.
I'm sorry.
No, I'm sorry.
I'm disgusted
Okay.
by this display right now. I'm pretty grossed out.
You told the police that you thought the gun was ugly.
I think at that moment, I'd never hated that gun more than I ever did. In that
You told the police that you were embarrassed to have bought the gun.
I was.
You told the police that you decided you really weren't gun people.
Yes.
Were you embarrassed at that point by gun ownership?
Yes,
That
I
was a
I
little
was
bit of a
embarrassed that we
satisfying
had a
slurp
gun,
sound,
and
hey?
It was at
I don't
home,
usually like
Dad
eating and
was-
drinking sounds, but when they're like
And I think
less
embarrassed is
sloppy
only
like
one
that,
of the emotions I was feeling at that
they're
moment.
kind of satisfying.
After you talked with
Kika,
the
I heard you
detectives,
crying.
Did they ask you to speak with
Kika, kitty.
a young woman?
They did.
Hi, baby man.
And did she testify in this case?
You're
I
so
don't rem-
cute.
She did.
And at the end of that conversation, did she give you a little booklet?
Yes.
I'm going to show you what's been marked as Defendant's Exhibit 237.1. It'll show up on your screen there.
Yes.
And what was that inside the booklet that she gave you?
Yes. But I didn't open the booklet when I got home. Sue Lute, Darla Lukenbaugh, and Linda Smith had come over, and one of them opened the booklet and said, "Hey, there's really good information in here." And that was when I looked at it and thought, these are things I need to do.
Among the things that you need to do, did they tell you to notify insurance companies?
They did.
And can you scroll down and look at all the things that they tell you to do? No, you can't. He has to do it for you.
I
Ms.
know.
Wolfe.
But I'm seeing one of those comments right here.
Okay. Is it too little now to see, or are you good?
Okay, so it
She's
says
putting on her glasses and looking
notify
over the
insurance
top of
companies,
them.
including automobile
What?
insurance, of immediate cancellation and request any refund. Carefully check all life and casualty insurance and death benefits, including Social Security, credit union, trade union, fraternal, military, etc. And there's some place in here, or maybe it was in another sheet, but that it says, get your insurance policies together, get your will together.
Okay. Sometime in the next couple of days, did you try to find the will?
Yes.
Did you
Yes.
find it?
I had, yeah, where I thought it was, it wasn't. Karen Brophy came over several times in those periods, and at one point or another, she and my niece Rachel, they said, "What do you think you need to do?" And I said, "I need to find the wills." And we went through. My upstairs bedroom was an attic, and so it's long, but it has these cute little cubby holes off of it that are storage for stuff that in our case, we stored Christmas ornaments in that and other things along those lines. But we went through everything in there because there was also boxes we hadn't unpacked from the fire we'd had 10 years ago. And I said, I haven't seen this will in a while. And so we're going through these boxes trying to see if I'd tucked the wills in there.
Did you begin to pull together all the life insurance policies?
Life insurance policies were easier for me to pull together because I had a file cabinet that had life insurance in it, so it wasn't that hard for me to pull them together.
Based on your experience, what was your sense of how quickly a life insurance company would pay a death
Good night,
claim
Moth. Sleep well.
in the case of murder?
I'd never had a client who had been murdered. I had no idea. But when I talked to the insurance agents, the insurance companies, because you call them and you say, I need to set up a claim, and they ask you questions, I immediately began to realize it was going to be, this was not going to be a quick payout by any wild stretch of the imagination. That, they said, well, send us this, this, and this. And so I'm taking notes and saying, okay. But part of it was stuff that, I didn't have even yet, Did
one of the
Eddie loves
insurance companies tell
pancakes.
you that
Doxy
you
loves
should call
Eddie
the
loves
police on her
pancakes.
or
Thanks for the follow,
exoneration?
bud.
they did. That was Forrester.
Appreciate you.
Before you made that
You love
call,
true crime?
did-
Well, I have good news for
did you
you. We
talk to
watch
your
a lot
sister?
of it
I
over
did.
here.
Is your sister a lawyer?
Yes, she is.
And when you told her that's what the insurance company had told you to do, what was her reaction?
It was strictly humor. She said, yeah, that'll be happening. That's kind of sarcasm that runs in our family anyway, where they were saying, and Holly and her law
I
partner
also
had
a lot for what
dealt
it's
with
worth.
a lot, because they're probate lawyers, had dealt
You're
with
making
a
a
lot
little
of
froggy.
these things. And I
hope you
relied
don't make
very
any
heavily
mistakes and
on
have to
her in
frog
those
your frog.
days as I was quizzing her on what I needed to do and what have you.
We've heard the call that you made to Detective Posey
Yes.
a couple, and I don't remember now exactly when the call was made, but it was soon after Dan's murder. Is that right?
Was.
I want to move.
She looks like she could be related to Betty White, and it makes me want to love her.
Again.
Also, by the way, welcome. Eddie Loves Pancakes. Everybody, please help
After
me
you
in
were-
making Eddie
when
Loves
you were
Pancakes
arrested-
feel welcome.
When was that?
September the 5th, I had gone to a United Healthcare meeting, and I had come home, and I needed to fax. I was having, what was it? I was having a printer problem at that point, and I needed to fax something to someone, and so I'd driven to Office Depot and faxed it and come home.
And you were greeted by police?
I pulled in my driveway, and a car I didn't know pulled in right behind me.
Pretty soon you were standing in the middle of your lawn in handcuffs?
Pretty soon, that's exactly how that happened.
At some point, soon after you were arrested, the police described to you the evidence that they had, or at least some of the evidence that they had.
Yeah, I sat in a holding cell for, I'm going to say, Well, I got arrested 2 o'clock. I'm gonna say it was between 6 and 8 o'clock. They finally.
I want to just ask you some specific questions.
Okay.
Oh,
Did you learn that the police
no, we're good. This is
had
good.
video,
1, 2, 3,
or were you
4,
told that the
5,
police had
6,
video
7,
of you
8, 9,
driving
10.
in
That's what I
Beaverton?
thought.
Yes.
Excellent.
Did that surprise you?
No, I could believe that.
Okay. Did they tell you that they had video of you near the murder scene?
Yes.
Did you believe that was true?
Not for 1 second. I thought they're making this up. This isn't true.
With how casually Nancy is talking about this and responding to
Last
questions,
row.
it's surprising that she was crying less than 10 minutes ago. Apart from that, Nancy's clear belief in her ability to sway the jury from damning evidence against her is on full display. She is confident that the evidence of her in the area before and after Dan's murder, her trying to cash in the insurance within the span of 2 days, and her buying a gun kit that she kept from the police has been appropriately explained away. In her mind, she is about to exonerate herself entirely.
So shortly after your arrest, were you represented by a lawyer named Katie Dunn?
I was.
And at some point, did Ms. Dunn come to show you some of the evidence in the case?
She did.
And did she show you a photograph that kind of shook you to your core?
She showed me a photograph of what looked like my van and what looked like me in it and what looked like me in clothes I recognized.
What do you mean clothes you recognize?
That nightshirt that we've talked about, the nubbly black one with the white lace applique.
Crochet and crack
And
pots,
I
yeah,
was obviously
pretty much.
somewhere near the school. I can't remember if the backdrop was Bellagio's or whatever. I wasn't that involved with the backdrop, but I can tell you it looked like me. I can tell you that I was, oh man, I was frightened to death. You know, you know what they say? They say old age isn't for sissies. So what happens is I turn 65 as I'm starting to lose my eyesight. Then I'm starting to lose my hearing. I'm looking at this and thinking, oh man, I'm now losing my mind, because that's what you think. You think, how can this have happened and me not remember this? How am I sitting here in a vehicle and have absolutely no memory of how I got there? And they're
being
saying
immersed
it happened
in
at
your
this time,
fucking
and it's video stamped. It's not like
romance suspense
trust
stories
us,
makes you think
wink,
that
wink,
other people
nudge,
are going
nudge.
to
It's this
believe
time.
these
It was not that.
narratives.
It was
it's
this picture,
crazy.
and I'm sitting there thinking, I'm not even
She
sure
is a
what I was thinking, to be
crackpot if she
perfectly
thinks
honest,
that people
because
are gonna
even now,
buy
as I
this
think about it, my
story.
mind kind of goes blank with the horror of it, you know?
Are you familiar with that Goose Hollow neighborhood?
Oh, very much so.
How familiar?
Probably the entire time I have spent in Portland has been associated with the Goose Hollow neighborhood. I went to school there. I worked at 19th and Flanders for over 10 years.
Is this in Maine?
Dan taught
I'm about
there.
to go to Maine.
Of all the neighborhoods that I'm comfortable with and that I feel I know where I am all the time there, that would be Goose Hollow.
And have you written, kind of used the Goose Hollow place as a writing place?
I have.
What's attractive about that neighborhood for writing?
Well, one, it's shady. Two, even though I know it is a home for a great many homeless people.
Oh, it's in Oregon? Okay,
and
okay.
I know it is a neighborhood that has a lot
yeah,
of
because it was the OCI.
People
Yeah,
associated with it. I still felt safe there. I had been there enough that it was just comfortable. It was more comfortable, in fact, than the neighborhood I'd lived in for 20 years.
When you would come into Portland from Beaverton,
Yes.
How would you come into the city?
I'd leap on 217, leap on 26, get off at, what's that exit called? One right after the zoo that takes you right down right down on Jefferson.
Okay. Is that typically how you enter the city?
Yes.
Later, after Ms. Dunn had shown you this photograph,
Yes.
Did you watch videotape surveillance of the footage taken near OCI?
Yes.
Did any of that video spark any memory of what you might have been doing on June
Imaginary
2nd?
monsters, thank you so
Yes.
much for the raid. I appreciate it.
So I am
Howdy, y'all.
seeing
Welcome. My name is
myself sitting
Doxy.
at
I
this
crochet
park
and watch
writing.
creepy stuff
uh,
and be a trash human being.
and the reason why this sticks out is it was a parking lot and it was empty, but there was a white van there. And there was some guy who kept walking back and forth, walking back and forth, walking back and forth. And I think he was working on the van, but it was just
What's new in the
enough
true crime
to
world?
throw
This
me
lady's
out of
crazy. She killed her
where I
husband. She's
was,
an author.
that I
It's all a
moved.
mess.
I said, no, I can't pay attention to him and think about what I need to think about. And so I moved the car.
So in this memory,
Yes,
is it a real memory? I mean, this is a real memory, right?
yes.
What are you doing when you're in the car?
I have a pad of paper. I'm jotting things down. And it's a pleasant day. I can remember that because it wasn't raining. And it's shady. It's, I'm just sitting here pulling it together, but that's when I can remember is that it would be a place I would have felt very comfortable writing. And so I'm sure that is a true memory.
Do you know whether, you said you had written in that neighborhood before?
I have.
And you're saying that this video triggers this memory?
Yes.
Do you
Been
know
on a
whether
break
this
from
event
crochet
that you're
projects.
describing
Might try
occurred on
sitting
June
tight until
2nd?
fall. Oh my god,
No.
I'm balls
Do you
deep
know that
in
it didn't?
crocheting a
No.
hooded cloak for myself. I'm so excited about it. I finished my ballerina top. I tweeted a picture of it.
There was testimony from your cousin.
And downstairs right
About
now, I
coming to
have
visit you in
a
August.
hooded
and having
cloak
you
that
get
I'm making
lost
that I am so
while
psyched
driving home
about.
from the
I
airport.
cannot
Yes.
wait to get done with it and
and
try it
lost
on
again
and
when you were
all that
driving.
good stuff. Because this is
to
the year that I
forestry
want
center?
Yes.
capes and
How many
cloaks
times
to.
had you been to the
A
forestry
couple of
center?
years ago
Hundreds.
is when I want capes and cloaks to
We
come
did
back
a lot
into
of catering
fashion.
there.
Let's be real.
The zoo was right there. We'd taken our granddaughter to the zoo. We'd gone to the zoo. The mushroom show is held at the forestry center every year. I've been there hundreds and hundreds of times.
Were those 2 times that she described the only times that you got lost?
Oh no. I spent a lot of that whole summer pulling up my GPS and trying to figure out where I was and where I was going.
Can you just describe, Your Honor, you're looking at the clock?
I am, but I think you've got time for a question and an answer, so
Okay.
let's go ahead.
Can you describe generally, just describe for the jury, the days, weeks, and months after June 2nd? What's going on in you?
Okay. Dan dies. And I'm
Jesus.
walking around in a fog, and I have people who are coming to see me all the time and are really working hard on taking care of me. Making sure that I'm eating right, making sure that I'm
Ooh, Imaginary
taken
Monsters.
care
That
of.
sounds like a really fun
And
project.
Just
That
about
sounds
the
fun
time
and like
that I think
free.
I can probably
know?
start coming back to life, my brother dies. And so it's like another body blow. So now, because I was left as the executor of the estate, I'm going back and forth to Texas, functioning. I'm putting on my, I'm okay face. Oh, I'm okay. And my smile that is neither sincere nor humorous or anything.
I don't think anything
And I'm
about you
getting
is
through my days.
sincere,
Step,
lady.
step, breathe, step, step. And you know what they tell you? They tell you that when you grieve, you go through these 5 steps. And we've all read this. We know this. We know the 5 steps. It doesn't work like that. They don't tell you that the steps, that it's not a little smooth transition. Okay, now I'm in this step. Now I'm in. No. I could go through all 5 steps in the morning and still be ready for the afternoon. I am in a fog. I have no idea what's going on 90% of the time. And fortunately, I have people who are just kind of stepping into my life and helping me out. My family
sucks like Chazzle Dazzle.
Sent Susan to me. And I wanted Susan to come. It wasn't that. But they keep her with me until they think I should be able to function. And I'm probably alone for a week then when my cousin Janet comes. And all it is my family saying, we're with you. We know you're suffering and we're just here to help if we can. Then my Uncle Ed dies. And when Janet described him as a Mr. Rogers
I want
of our
to
family,
send you
truly
a
was.
square
He's
that I
probably
fucking love.
one of
I
the
actually
nicest
have
guys
it
in the
up.
whole wide
Give me
world.
1 second.
And then I get arrested, and
This
that's my
is
summer. And I'm thinking,
my favorite granny square.
nowhere in there have I had time
Let me
to
send
grieve
it to you in
for
chat
any
here.
of the losses, much less Dan's. And I'm in a fog, and I go into the one thing you can tell you when you get arrested. There are 2 things that never happen. It is never quiet, and it is never dark. And it's been 4 years since Dan died, and I know one thing. I know I still haven't grieved appropriately for him. I know. I know.
It says
in 4
music.
years, I should be in a different place than I am. And I think a lot of that is because of that
I've made a few of that square. I
happened.
definitely want to make
Again,
some blankets
Nancy
out of it. I love it
emphasizes her
so
life and
much.
her feelings when
It's really
talking
easy
about
too.
Dan and his death. It's all in regards to how it affected her, rather than how it's a tragedy and how Dan deserved to live. Her going on to state that she was never able to properly grieve also flies in the face of how matter-of-fact she was when she talked about his life earlier. If she stated she had grieved and was moving on, it would have appeared that she could talk about those moments without emotion because she had coped with the loss. But here, it just appears that she only hurts when talking about how hard her life has been, instead of focusing on Dan's demise. Again, Nancy's memory about the summer after Dan's death
Feeling sorry
is
for
impeccable.
herself
She recalls who
makes
was with
her
her
cry.
and when, as well as what they did.
That's such
but the
a
worst
red
day of her
flag.
life, when her husband was killed in a random act of violence, she has borderline no memory of.
I'm sorry.
That's okay. That's okay. People have testified in this court that you didn't display the appropriate grief.
Yeah.
How do you feel about public grief?
I hate public grief. I don't even like crying when I'm alone. I think crying is so worthless. It doesn't accomplish anything. I think this is the fact where I'm sitting here now like I'm a watering pot on
I'm
a
sorry,
stray.
you call yourself a
It's
leftist?
just embarrassing. How do I
All
feel
we do is
about
cry.
crying? I hate crying, but I really hate public crying. And when somebody dies near you, there is a real thin line between sympathy and pity. And man, when you think you're starting to cross over that line, you really, really just want to be away from everybody. My whole plan after Dan died, I had a plan. It was to go upstairs, pull the covers over my head, and wake up in 2050.
Also, yeah, crying is so good for you.
Mark's
It's so good
funeral
for
and
you to
Uncle
get that
Ed's
out.
passing, and all this stuff.
That's a really good point,
People
CB. Holy
people
shit.
tell you all the time. They say, "Oh, there's no right or wrong way to grieve. You'll work through it yourself." And then they're sitting there with a check mark list saying, "Oh no, she's not showing enough emotion." There's no right or wrong answer here because, well, there is a wrong answer, and it's always a wrong answer no matter what you're doing. So they may feel that
Haley
way.
Bear, thank you so much for the follow. I appreciate
I certainly
it very,
feel I
very
didn't
much.
grieve enough, and I still feel that way. But if people think looking at me, I wasn't sad or wasn't brokenhearted over losing my husband, they would have been wrong.
If people thought I wasn't sad over losing my husband, they would have been wrong. It's a bad time to mix up tenses. For Nancy, she wasn't sad about Dan because she had planned his demise. But when she brings up her uncle's death and other deaths that happened shortly thereafter, her emotions intensify throughout, and it does appear genuine.
after Dan died, you prepared to get that house sold quickly. Is that right?
I did.
Why is that?
Oh,
That's not fair.
Okay, so I've got all these deaths going on around me, and then I get the cheery
If Josiah got murdered,
news
I'd want to move
that
immediately.
I'm not on the note,
Immediately.
and Wells Fargo can, whether I'm behind on the payments or not, does not matter. They can foreclose on the property because the note holder is dead. And
Okay,
I'm
never
thinking,
mind. You
oh,
blew
man.
it.
So now I get to add this to my list of stuff. You know, if it was up to me, we could have waited another year to have sold the house, except that, except now I've got Wells Fargo breathing down my neck. And he said, be careful, don't let Wells Fargo know. Well, what does that mean? Does that mean I don't talk to Social Security? Dan wasn't on Social Security, so that wasn't a big issue. But, you know, do they not read the papers? Do they not say, huh, look at this, a guy died? It wasn't like it was a big secret, but
oh, night, CV.
I
Are you in Canada?
In a hurry once I heard that news. I felt like
good
I
night. Sorry.
Did James Denny and Tamara Alva pick up the pace of trying to get that backyard cleaned up?
They did, but it was also summer and it dried up enough that they could get the big equipment back.
She is a hoarder.
And did you have friends coming over to help you get things cleared out?
Oh man, everybody helped. I mean, honestly, you really find out who loves you when something terrible happens, because people came over and said, I'm here, what can I do? And the people who didn't say that, when they saw me, said, if you need anything, call me. Friends organized other friends, and they would come over in groups to help me pack. Susan called her boyfriend and told him to come up. You know, it was like they were trying to make up for how much Dan had meant to me, because they knew how heavily I relied on him.
That makes 0 sense. Shut up. You shouldn't have taken the stand, idiot.
Part of cleaning out the house was to clean out a lot of Dan's stuff.
It was.
We heard about for example, we heard about the downstairs.
Mm-hmm.
It's just filled with canned goods.
I gave Jack
Same, Imaginary Monsters. I was very surprised when Bungie Fox pointed out that this trial was just this year.
At the homeless shelter, and it was duck stock, and it was chicken stock, and it was turkey stock, and it was beef stock. It was the kind of thing that if you were a foodie, you would have said, I'm moving in here. We had a stove where if you were a foodie, you would have said, I'm moving in here. You know, our house was dedicated to Dan's cooking in lots of ways.
Sounds like it was dedicated to your hoarding, miss.
Did you try to find homes for that?
I did. Some of them, I thought people were going to start closing their windows when they saw me coming, because, oh no, they'll never give us any more stuff. You know.
What about some of the other things like cooking things and utensils and things like that? His multiples of tongs and.
We had enough friends who were foodies or cookers or chefs or what have you, that a lot of that stuff I was able to give to people who I knew would use it. But some stuff, you know, we gave to Nathaniel specifically because we knew that he also loved to cook, and there would be things he would like.
Who's we?
Dan and me. Sorry, he's not here. I'm sorry.
Suave.
How many different people do you think were in and out of your house helping you move things around? Or pack things up or throw things away? Both friends and people who were hired. How many do you think came in and out?
Probably somewhere between 25 and 35.
Jesus.
Did you know them all?
Yes, I did actually.
Well, what about the people like that All My Brothers guy?
No, yeah. Okay, I didn't know those people, but that was, and you're right, I didn't know them all. I didn't know the guys that Tanya sent over. I didn't know All My Brothers guys. But they came for a specific piece of what I wanted, what I needed to have
Monsters,
done. And
that's
for the most part, not Tanya's friends, but for the most part, they were paid for it.
heavy shit.
You know,
Did you watch every box get packed?
oh Lord, no. Most of the time they said, just leave, just, go find something else to do and let us do this. We would, at the end of a day where I felt like I had done nothing, which was probably pretty good, accurate statement of what I'd done, we would have 20 boxes that we'd need to take to storage, and Susan organized everything. I mean, she has some strong organizational skills, and when the police got there, they must have just groaned when they saw how many boxes were in there, because a lot of the stuff I couldn't get rid of.
Goodwill takes everything.
The police found the gun kit in storage.
Everything.
Marked GK.
I packed that box.
You gave them the gun, the Glock 17.
I did.
That had the little zip tied through it.
Right.
But there isn't a slide in
Yeah,
evidence.
fentanyl scares the
You know
fuck
where
out of
that
me,
slide
man. It scares
On
the
the
shit
day
out
I
of me.
was
I care
arrested,
about way
if
too
they
many
had
people
asked me,
that
I would've said
do
it was either
way
in
too many
storage
drugs.
or in the house. I hadn't seen it for a while, but I had no idea where it was.
You know where it is now?
No, I would have thought that somebody would have found it.
The one portion of the gun kit that would have exonerated her if she could have presented it, that being the slide, somehow went missing. Nancy tries to play this off as having been a circumstance caused by the 35 people who helped her pack up her life and move after Dan's death. But given that the rest of the gun kit, as well as the gun she bought, weren't touched, it's clear that she got rid of the sole piece of evidence that would show she had fired the gun. The rest of the testimony by her defense team is fairly inconsequential, but I will leave a link to it in the description if you would like to watch. They don't disparage or deny any of the evidence, but instead try to paint a relatively innocent picture of all the evidence. The millions of dollars in life insurance, Nancy hadn't taken those out on Dan because she wanted the money. She took it out as a kind of loan, which only put her and Dan further into debt and at risk for defaulting on their mortgage. The video of her car in the area of the shooting, both directly before and after, she went to get Starbucks and simply didn't remember.
I cannot believe that she
also
took
might
the
have sat in the
stand
car
and thought
at
that
a
she could
park
convince
writing,
people that
then
she
went
was
home,
innocent.
went back to sleep and woke up. The gun kit, she just got it so she could write about it for the next romance novel. She has no evidence of this in the form of rough drafts she had worked on prior to his death, but she had no use for it otherwise. Her cellmate coming forward and stating that she talked to her about shooting her husband in the back and the chest, completely not addressed, as if it never happened. While we won't go over the full 6+ hours of cross-examination that occurred, it's important to see how
You better
Nancy's
believe
mask
I'm fucking
slips
watching
between
that full
someone
6
she is comfortable
hours.
with, who she has practiced her story to, versus someone who is directly challenging her. Again, Nancy believes that everything she has said thus far makes logical sense. She cannot have someone question her statements where she says she has memory issues, while simultaneously recollecting things from 20 years ago with perfect clarity, lest her entire testimony falls through. The cross-examination is extremely
fair.
important, as she would need to make sense.
That's
of
not
some of
how
the most
memory problems
nonsensical parts of her
work. You don't
story,
just
while still
forget
coming across as
everything one
sympathetic and
day.
likable. But like Diane Downs and Tony Tote, her ego being challenged does not allow this to happen. Let's watch.
Judge. Good afternoon, Ms. Brophy.
Good afternoon.
It's
Back in
important to keep the
2018,
fucking
did you carry a
truth in
purse?
order, hey?
Carry a wallet.
No.
How did you carry your critical pieces of information, like an ID and stuff like that?
In my bra. I know that's weird, but so much of what I did was not aided by having a purse. So I had my phone in my bra. If I needed a driver's license or a card, and I rarely had cash. So in my bra.
Nancy's tone and her way of speaking has completely shifted. Prior, She would expand endlessly on certain subject matter, but her direct answers come across as argumentative and aggressive towards the prosecution
I agree.
before they have
She
even
does
really
sound
started.
hostile.
And you wrote this letter to Dan in 2015.
I did.
That's been referred to a couple of times. After you wrote that, did you print it?
Yes.
And what did you do with it?
I put it in an envelope, and it was a purple folder, and I put it on the desk that we shared. So if something
Bra
happened,
stuffer, ew,
and
yeah.
he came back and had to go through the desk, he would see it.
I worked
first
at a
thing.
gas station for a couple months
And
once.
that was the only thing in that envelope?
Hated that
Yes.
shit.
Oh, no, there was probably copies of the policies in the envelope in addition, you know. I not only did I give him the information, I gave him the policies themselves.
And how would Dan know to have looked for that letter after, if you were to pass during that time?
I figured sooner or later he would go to our desk, is what I figured. That sooner or later he would be looking for something, and there would be the photo with Dan on it, and he would see it and read it and realize what he had.
Okay. So you put this letter and some policies, perhaps, and put them
She's
in this envelope.
Being a total
Put it
cunt
on
for
the
no
desk.
reason
Folder.
already.
Folder.
I'm sorry, what did I
Purple.
say?
You said envelope. It's a purple folder.
Okay. Purple. Sorry.
Not
purple
wearing a bra
folder.
means you've lost a defense against a murder
Nancy
accusation.
herself called this folder an envelope less than 2
Shit.
minutes before.
I put it in an envelope.
However, she corrects the prosecution.
You know what? I'm just
as a
going to have
way
to
subconsciously
pre-sweat a
assert
bunch of
dominance in the
bras and
situation.
leave them
She's
laying all
marking her
around my house and
territory,
lie
so to
about
speak,
it.
and asserting that he doesn't know what he's talking about.
I will
Her
also
smirk
need a
towards
breast
him
lift.
does not align with the grieving widow she was portraying just minutes before. And in this instance, she believes that she can outsmart the prosecution and get away with murder. She will continue this behavior, unaware of how tonally inconsistent it is to what she was trying to portray.
And did you write his name on it?
Yes,
Okay.
in big letters.
Did you say something about a picture? Did you not say that?
I don't think so.
Oh, I'm sorry. So it says Dan on it.
But you did.
And is this a folder that closes, or like
Gravity
is
be
there
a
snap
bitch,
on it or
and it
anything like
come
that?
for
Can you
us
hold up that
all.
orange folder? Thank you. It's a folder just like this. It's a folder, and it's purple.
Gotcha.
Thank you.
And so when you got back from your surgery,
Right.
was that folder still there,
It was.
right where you left it?
Yes.
Was there any indication to you that Dan had ever read that letter?
No. As far as I can tell, Dan never read it.
In that letter, you direct Dan to keep paying on the Americo policy because he'll get the premiums back in 9 years.
Yes, my math skills were a little iffy there.
And that's what I was going to ask you. Is your math wrong, or did you just have a typo, or what?
I'm going to tell you my math was either wrong or I had a typo. I had no idea, but it is wrong. You're absolutely right.
Because it's actually 19 years, right?
No. By that time, it was probably more like 15 years.
So probably not a typo then, because of 9.
You'll also need to stop carrying a purse that could potentially carry a
But you had
weapon.
about
That's
15
no
more
problem.
years
My
that you needed
purse
to
is
pay.
really
Yeah.
small. It's like a
And
backpack
you knew
style.
that. You knew that about the policy.
I did.
And you also
It's not
knew
gonna conceal
that
an
if you
AR-15,
were to
that's
get
for
to that
sure.
point where you were collecting, or I'm sorry, had the ability to collect the
Right.
premiums back, you knew then that if you were to take that money back, that you'd actually have to give up the policy.
Nope.
You didn't know that?
No. I
It's
could
one of those
continue
miniature
paying on the policy
backpack
for
type
Dan,
deals from the
but
90s,
I could take the money out
except
of it.
for it's asymmetrical.
Didn't
It's lopsided.
your
It's so
insurance
cute. I love
expert
it so much.
testify? Did you hear him testify and say that if you were to take that money out of that policy, that you would have had to forfeit the policy?
I don't.
I suppose it could
if they
probably
said that,
fit a
I
stubby
didn't
little
understand, but I can
revolver
tell you
in it,
this.
but nothing any bigger
They
than
have a
that.
schedule in the policy that shows what happens if you have this money. For example, if Dan died when
And
he was
handguns are
78,
illegal in
we didn't get
Canada.
100,000 back. We got 167,000 back. But if we took the 67,000 out of it, we can continue paying for the policy. Now, that's not to say it was a 20-year term. That's not to say they might not raise the premium on it, but we could continue paying for it.
Do you disagree with your insurance expert?
Quinn.
I disagree with that aspect if that's what they really said.
And this, you said, was part of a bigger retirement plan, correct?
It was?
Correct. And so, this idea that, I mean, would you agree it's pretty risky?
What is risky?
Well, the one, you have to live to be able to collect on the policy, right?
Well, yeah.
Okay. And if
I won't even be carrying my purse very often these days because
well, I guess you disagree with that notion.
Bay got me a fanny pack, and I am a fanny pack man in a big way. I love them.
More for that policy than what you
to
could
just
have
carry
bought.
shit around on your hip. It's so convenient.
Similar
You don't have to
coverage
hold
for
it.
I do.
Like it's
And so,
easier to dig around in.
And just asking,
Ugh, I love
did you
it.
guys have the
I
thought
love
that,
a
well,
fanny
maybe we
pack.
should put this money
I'm so in.
away and actually be able to access it whenever we need it, instead of risking not getting it at all? Did you have that discussion?
Okay, I need to break that down and answer your question.
Yeah, let me ask you in a series of questions.
Okay.
Did you have the discussion with Dan that, well, maybe we don't want to spend all this money on a policy right now. Let's pay for a cheaper policy, but let's put some money away, like as if we were putting it in to the life insurance.
We would have had that discussion if either one of us were savers. But at that point, I knew I was not a saver. So I understand this about myself. Part of the reason why I have forced savings policies is because I know I'm not a saver. And if I can put this money away where I can't get to it, we will have it later on when we need it. If we're just doing a savings account or we're investing in the stock market,
Sure.
I'm not good like that.
But you agree that you treated the forester's policy that also had this savings component. It's forced savings, but you were just taking the money.
I took the money out when we needed it because it was there, because why we had it was for A, retirement, but B, emergencies, and this qualified as an emergency.
Not much of a forced savings, though, if you're just taking the money out, right?
That is true.
And in fact, you didn't pay that back either.
No, we did not. But part of our plan was to pay that back. When we sold the house, we were going to overfund the policy.
Sure. And in that Dearest Dan letter, you also told Dan, or you were writing at least, that he should try to collect on a Conseco policy.
Where else would I put my bonus crafts when I'm bored in the drive-through line?
No,
it had
been.
I don't take crafts on the go because I know I'll fucking ruin them. I know I will.
It had been Universal Life. Conseco had an iffy reputation.
That's not something that I really have to account for.
We had decided to let that go. But when you have Universal Life that you can't borrow against, it continues on because the money you have in there continues to pay the policy. So I knew it was being paid even though I had stopped paying on it. I knew there was a real good possibility it was in force.
I see. You just weren't really sure.
Right.
Okay. And when you, 4 days after
I love this guy's
Dan's
voice,
murder,
by the way.
You called
This
Detective
lawyer?
Posey, is that right?
No. Dan died Saturday morning. I called Monday afternoon.
That's when you called Detective Posey regarding the insurance policy?
Right.
And that was...
I had done what they had told me. I'd called insurance companies and started the claim, and that's when we had a conversation. And then I called Holly, and then I called Detective Posey.
We'll break that down. I just want
sorry.
You're saying that was on the 4th?
I think so. I think it was that Monday.
And if your call records show that it was actually the 6th?
It could have been.
Okay.
The call records are going to be more accurate at this point than I am.
And also on the 6th, you actually, well, during that phone call with Detective Posey, you only disclosed a $40,000 policy.
Yes, but he didn't ask me about anything else.
I understand. I don't think he even asked you about that. Isn't it true that you actually just offered that it was
That's
just
true.
a $40,000 policy?
Mm-hmm.
The smallest of all of your policies,
No, it wasn't the smallest, but it was a small policy.
besides the Life Map $2,500
Right,
policy.
but it was the smallest.
The only one you
That one.
offered to Detective Posey was the smallest policy.
Yes.
During the same conversation that you're asking him for a letter of exoneration.
I'm asking to see if that's something that he would have said, oh, sure, we'll do that for you. Or if he said no. I mean, I was prepared for the worst. I was prepared for him to say no.
Sure. Isn't it true that you actually talked to all your insurance policy companies
did.
that day?
I did. And not a one of them asked for that, but Forrester's.
Okay, so you called all your life insurance companies,
Mm-hmm.
notified them of Dan's death.
Yes.
One of them asked you for a letter of exoneration.
Mm-hmm.
You asked Detective Posey for that.
I asked if it was possible to get that.
So, when did Susan Estrada get into town?
Susan got in.
So close to done with this
Dan,
shirt that
okay,
we've been
let me
working
think
on
for
for
a minute
so long. I'm
Susan
getting
got in
very
on that
excited.
Friday, the following Friday. So Dan died on Saturday the 2nd, 3rd, 4th, 5th, 6th, 7th. She would have gotten into town on the 8th of June.
So you would agree that she was not with you when you made that call to Detective Posey?
I would. And I don't think I think I told her about it, and her memory was just off on it.
Sure. She
I
was
don't
not
think-
sitting next to you while you made that call.
No.
You sure did. Perfectly
think that,
imperfect. Kimmy, welcome. Everybody make sure that Kimmy feels
I would
welcome.
think that after 4 years, her memory was just fuzzy.
I do have a perfect channel.
Oh, I'm sorry. Were you telling us why she forgot or something?
I was telling you what I thought happened. I thought her memory was fuzzy.
It's because of the community, though.
The
I can't
prosecution
lie.
pointing
I
out
can't
that Nancy
take
is
credit
making
for it.
assertions
My chat
over why other
rules.
people are wrong or why the testimony that others gave doesn't match up with hers is subtle but effective. Nancy had stated that multiple people, like her
Thanks for the
friend
follow,
and
babe.
Dan's mother, have lied on the stand because she is the only one telling the truth.
I really
Pointing out
appreciate
the slight
that.
ways
Thank you so
she tries
much.
to assert she knows better than them, helps establish how little of what she says makes sense when held up to scrutiny.
Ms. Brophy, I want to start. Can you hear me okay?
I can.
Okay. I want to start just clarifying something from yesterday
Okay.
that I believe you testified to. You said when you got
This
downtown,
dude's voice is velvety.
later
I
that
love
morning.
it.
June 2nd, that you kind of figured.
Yeah, Kimmy, you
what was
found
going on
you found your place.
based on how
You
people
found
were
your
reacting
place.
around you.
This is your place.
But it is true that nobody actually told you that it was Dan that had been killed?
You
until
should join the
Detective Posey,
Discord.
correct?
We have channels
Yes.
dedicated to projects and
And that was during that
patterns and
interview.
stuff.
Yes.
But you
And if you want to
stated
see what we're working
that
on right now, just exclamation point
Karen
project,
called you before you
or
went
I'm
into
sorry,
that
exclamation
interview.
point
Yes.
pattern.
Dan's
We'll
mother,
have the
Karen.
project details for
Yes.
you
and
if
that
you
told
are
her that it was Dan
interested in
and
seeing.
that he was dead,
And it takes you
Yes.
to a free pattern in case you decide that you want to make it.
based on the fact that you thought that Dan had been killed.
It was more than think.
But you hadn't been told.
I had not been told, but
Stop,
I had not heard
Quinn.
from him. All of his friends avoided looking at me, and the police officers knew who I was before I got there, and one police officer hugged me. This is not good news I'm going to hear.
What if you were wrong?
You're making voodoo dolls?
Then I would have called
Amazing.
Karen and said, "Happy days.
Thank you
I was
so
wrong."
much,
And
Imaginary
Karen and I would have
Monsters.
celebrated, and we would
I
have
appreciate
laughed,
it
and
so much.
we
Thank
would have
you.
had family jokes about this for 20 years, and it would have been much, much better than it turned out.
Out of everything in the entire trial, this moment may be the most damning.
Fuck, and I was just
Nancy having
talking
to
through
admit
it.
to knowing her husband,
You told her that it was Dan and that he was dead.
multiple people, like her friend
Sorry,
and Dan's
sorry.
mother, have lied on the stand because she is the only one telling the truth. Pointing out the slight ways she tries to assert she knows better than them, helps establish how little of what she says makes sense when held up to scrutiny.
Ms. Brophy, I want to start. Can you hear me okay?
I can.
Okay. I want to start just clarifying something from yesterday
Okay.
that I believe you testified to. You said when you got downtown later that morning, June 2nd, that you kind of figured what was going on based on how people were reacting around you. But it is true that nobody actually told you that it was Dan that had been killed until Detective Posey, correct?
Yes.
And that was during that interview.
Yes.
But you stated that Karen called you before you went into that interview,
Yes.
Dan's mother, Karen,
Yes.
and that you told her that it was Dan and that he was dead,
Yes.
based on
Bumble.
the fact that you thought.
How are you, my
Dan had been
love? G-Man, thank you so much for the follow. I appreciate
was
it.
more than think.
So many new friends
You haven't been
today.
told.
I'm going to make sure that
I
G-Man
had not
feels
been told,
welcome.
but I had not heard from him. All of his friends avoided looking at me, and the police officers knew who I was before I got there, and one police officer hugged
Nice.
me. This is not good news I'm going to hear.
Welcome back, Shardies.
What if you were wrong?
Then I would have called Karen and said, happy days, I was wrong. And Karen and I would have celebrated, and we would have laughed, and we would have had family jokes about this for 20 years, and it would have been much, much better.
Something tells me Karen's not going to be
Out of
around
everything
in 20
the entire
years.
trial, this
You
moment
looking the way
may
you
be
do,
the
and
most
she's
damning.
his
Nancy
mother.
having to admit
No,
to knowing
no
her
offense,
husband was
Lee.
dead and telling his relatives he had died prior to her being told is the proverbial nail in the coffin. Her reasoning that it just couldn't be anything else based on how people were acting
does
is
move
nonsense
forward,
as well.
though.
Given that she
No
had
idea
no
why
idea
you're still
at this
up.
point
We're
someone
we're
had
gonna be
died.
calling
Nancy
it here
believed
pretty
she had an explanation
soon.
for everything.
If
and
that
if
makes
she
you
was
feel
allowed
any
to
better,
speak on
I'm
her
sorry
own
that
behalf,
you're
she could swindle
having
her way to
trouble
freedom.
sleeping.
But much like her books, no one was
1, 2,
buying it.
3,
But
4. Holy
if you want a
shit.
full examination of
Fucking
cross-examination,
roasted.
let me know. But for brevity's
Roasted.
sake, Nancy destroyed her own
1,
arguments on the stand,
2,
and
3,
after having a
4,
very
6,
short
7.
deliberation, she was found guilty of second-degree homicide. When the verdict was read, Nancy showed
Second-degree.
no reaction and simply stared straight ahead, as if nothing had occurred. She is yet to be sentenced at the time of this recording, but according to Dan's family, they feel as if justice was properly served in this case. Dan Brophy was a wonderful man. He had made the lives of everyone he came into contact with better,
Yeah,
and his
you sounded
legacy
like
shall
such
live
a
on.
treasure.
His
It's
students
such a
still
bummer
carry the
that
values he
this
instilled
is the
in them,
woman
and
he fell in
despite
love
his
with.
tragic demise, he still lives in their memories. Thank you for watching another episode of Dreading. If you like this video, please hit the like button, as it does help push our videos into the algorithm, and consider
Everybody,
subscribing if you appreciate this
please
content. If you have any
give
video
Dreading
suggestions, feel free to leave them in the comments down below, or
amazing
email me at the email in the channel's
everything
bio.
you
If
can.
you want to
Go
see videos
comment,
early
go
and
like,
support the
go
channel, as we
subscribe,
are
do all the
regularly
things you can for
demonetized,
Dreading.
Consider looking at our Patreon. Have a great day, and
And
remember
consider
to
looking at
stay
their
safe.
Patreon. Okay, so really quick, I'm going to go back to, whoops. I'm going to go back to their
Are
channel.
liars. I don't remember.
And we're gonna start this one. I don't think that we're gonna make it all the way through this, but we'll look at unsolved celebrity kidnappings because it's a short one. And it's like something a little different from what they normally do. Hey, pretty neat. By the way, I'm so psyched to see this channel growing as much as it has. When we found it, they were sub 10K subscribers. So I'm really pleased for them that they're doing well. Anyway, here we go.
For most people, the idea of being a celebrity is a dream. To make so much money by singing, acting, or modeling, or having the entire world know who you are, and being able to afford
Thank
the
you,
finest
Bungie
things in
Fox.
life seems like the ultimate existence. To have assistants, agents, and employees dedicated to making your life easier, anticipating your every
See you later,
need, and
imaginary
taking
monsters.
care
I
of
hope you
the
have a
little,
wonderful
minute
evening.
annoyances that come with being a person.
Oh my God, that little
is above
mushroom
what any
is
normal
so
person with a
dang
regular
cute.
job can hope for. This kind of idyllic life makes it harder to ever imagine
I'm
a
gonna be completely
downside,
honest. I've been
as
watching
most
your YouTube for
celebrities
about
earn
7 to
more in a
8
day than
years,
most
so I
people
thought I
will
might as
see
well
in their
finally join Twitch. Oh my
lifetimes. But many have
goodness.
gone on to describe
Well,
fame
welcome
as a
to this
prison.
side.
Famously, Stevie Nicks spoke about fame as being a perpetual state of amnesia, where everyone knows you and has a deep, complex opinion on you, but you don't know them. Any room you go into is filled with people who have already decided who you are and could very well hate you for things you haven't done. This feeling has led to numerous breakdowns of celebrities, and, as we are about to cover, led to some of the most famous people being put in real danger. Welcome back to another episode of Dreading. While we usually focus on one case
Thanks,
per video,
bud.
deep diving into various true stories, today we wanted to try something a bit different. Today we are going to be talking about 3 separate, unsolved cases of celebrity kidnappings that most people have never heard of. This video idea came from a subscriber who recommended we look into the first case, but stated that there was so little information out there that we wouldn't be able to make a full video.
Okay,
That
we might
comment led us down a proverbial rabbit hole, and of stories
we
of
might
celebrity
only get
kidnappings
through
we've never
one
heard of, and
or
we feel
2 of the
obliged to
3
share
of
that with
these
you
tonight.
today. If you like this kind of
What's
video,
the Discord
please
name? It's
consider
just
leaving a like down
discord.gg/fartslide.
below, and we will make more. If
And
you
I think it's just
prefer our
called
long-form
Doxy Chat.
videos discussing one case at a time over this kind of
Yeah,
video,
it's just called
please let
Doxy
us know in
Chat.
the comments, and we won't revisit the format in the future, as your feedback is always welcome. If you have any other
1,
case
2,
suggestions,
3,
feel free to
4,
leave them in the
5,
comments
6,
down
7,
below
8,
or email me. With that being
9.
said, let us begin.
9 is the magic
Alba
number.
was born April 28th, 1981.
I'm
From an
sorry,
early age,
excuse me?
she
Did
knew she was
Jessica
going to
Alba
start
get
acting.
kidnapped?
As a girl, she always felt like an outsider amongst her peers.
What?
And as if she didn't quite belong with anyone.
No.
Her childhood had been filled with severe medical issues and kept her from attending school for any significant amount of time. This included her getting pneumonia 4 to 5 times a year, partially collapsing her lungs twice over, and rupturing her appendix. That, paired with her father's job in the Air Force, she was in a near constant state of flux, moving from state to state and observing those around her. She felt as if she'd been robbed of a normal childhood experience, and had to watch it happen around her. It was because of this isolation that Jessica wanted to pursue acting. She hadn't been able to have the normal childhood experience she wanted.
Back?
And it was her hope that in playing different characters, she
or
would
is
be
she
able to
still
mimic the normal
missing?
lives she watched for years. She also felt uncomfortable with herself to such a degree that she thought if she could become anyone else, her life would improve immensely.
And I luckily had, we had the military because I was very sick as a kid and I had many different illnesses. I was in the hospital a lot. I had several surgeries, lots of
She's not currently
issues with
missing, so
asthma
how is
and
this
allergies.
unfucking solved
I was the
then?
kid on the soccer field, baseball field, that had a breathing machine every time I played.
Really? Uh-huh.
So, and then I was sick a lot. I was in the hospital, like basically every time I got a cold, I was in the hospital for 2 weeks.
Really?
And kids get sick all the time.
I think Josiah has that microphone.
What did that do for your mentality? Do you think, as you reflect on, obviously going through it at the time, you're probably
I was
sucks.
miserable. Yeah, I
But what do you think that
prayed
did for
a
you?
lot. I prayed a lot that I could be a superhero. I just wanted to be a superhero. I just wanted to be someone that I wanted to be anybody else. And I thought if I had superhuman powers, like,
poor sweet baby,
wouldn't that be great? Because I just felt so weak. So I think, for me, it made me even stranger, even more of a strange kid. Because I probably already started off a little bit weird, and it made me even more off and
poor sweet baby Jessica Alba.
I always felt more comfortable with adults at an early age.
But people might not know, and I'm told this, I want to make sure this is right, that you had kidney surgery, you were frequent bouts of pneumonia, you had a ruptured appendix.
I was a very sick kid. I think that's why I became an actor, because I spent so much time by myself fantasizing that I was going to be somebody else.
In 1992, when Jessica was 11 years old, she convinced her mom to allow her to take part in an acting competition where the grand prize was free admission to an acting class. Her mom wasn't keen on the idea of Jessica being a part of the entertainment industry, but Jessica insisted, refusing to take
She's
no for
really
an answer.
talented.
Jessica
it would have been
won
a
the
shame.
competition and began to take the classes. And within 9 months, when she was 12 years old, she had
Well,
already
I don't
been
love
signed to an
how
agent. People were
typecast she
blown
is
away by
and
her
like the
natural
roles
ability,
that she
and
gets.
many felt
but
that she was a rare child actor that could actually act.
Definitely,
Jessica began
it's
to book
obvious
small
that she's
commercial roles
very
quickly,
good at acting.
appearing in multiple television ads for Nintendo and JCPenney. Only 2 years after the competition, and 1 year after being signed, Jessica managed to get her first acting role as Gail in Camp Nowhere.
Is it odd
Originally,
seeing other
she
setups
had
and
been hired
recognizing
in a
what
small
equipment is
role that was
used
supposed to take 2
AV-wise?
weeks of her time.
Or just one of those
However,
things
due
like,
to
oh,
one of the
I
other
looked at
child
that for what I
actresses
do.
dropping out at the last minute,
It's
Jessica's
just as
role was
normal
bumped
as
up,
like
and she was
whenever
on the
you
set for 2
see
months.
somebody has the same
From there
trapper
on,
keeper as
Jessica
you
began
in
to
high
book
school
more
or
and
whatever,
more
you know what I
jobs,
mean?
landing multiple
Or
small
like,
roles in independent movies and making her way to television. By 1995, when she
I
was
don't know.
15 years
It's
old, she booked the role of Maya
It's a
on the
pretty
television
normal
show
thing. It's
Flipper,
pretty
and
normal
promptly
for me.
moved to Australia to
Sometimes
take
when
part
it's
in the
somebody that I
show.
really like and they have the same microphone as me, this is a pretty common microphone to have on the high end. Well, really, in the mid-range, I suppose, because the high end is like thousands of dollars. This is $400. I don't remember how much this might cost, but it's mid-range. Anytime I see somebody that I really like that has the same one, I'll make that'll be my icebreaker or whatever. You know what I mean? It's an excuse to be like, hey, me and you, we're the same. But like, it's never weird. Oh, hey, we're getting DMCA'd for sure. Like, definitely. I didn't even think about that because I was talking about microphones.
At this point, Jessica had already begun to make a name for herself and had a fair few fans. Teenage girls looked up to her, and she had begun to be featured on the covers of teen magazines. But she wasn't thought of as mainstream quite yet. Because of that, Jessica and her family were quite lax when it came to her security. There had been times where she was recognized in the public, but to them, it was nothing to worry about. Her fans seemed young and respectful, and according to her agent, getting any sort of security would make her seem unapproachable, which would be damaging to her image. Little did they know what someone had in store for the young star. As she was filming the first season of Flipper, Jessica began to get strange phone calls on a regular basis. The calls would come whenever she was on set, and were worrisome enough for her parents to take note of them, but for the most part, they were laughed off as some weird prank by a fan who had somehow gotten access to her phone number. But one day, after a long day of shooting, Jessica was kidnapped directly from the set, and her family believes that the phone calls she was getting had something to do with it. The details of how she was taken were never released to the public, and virtually no information is known about the kidnapping, sans her own testimony that she wrote in her book, Honest Life. According to the book and police reports, she was found 14 hours later, tied up and blindfolded in the trunk of a car. The cops who found her stated that she was severely traumatized by the experience and had a hard time recounting any part of it. Like many victims of immense trauma, she had a difficult time going over what had happened and giving details.
I'm
and
so glad
after
that
a short
she was
investigation,
found okay.
the case was closed, with no arrests or persons of interest. Of note is the fact that the phone calls from that point on stopped. Because of the lack of testimony and Jessica's minimal statements regarding the case, many believe that the kidnapping was a publicity stunt gone awry, or faked by Jessica to get a day off from work. However, various aspects of the case make that impossible. If this were a publicity stunt, Jessica's refusal to discuss it publicly in interviews, past what she stated in her book, and the minimal reporting surrounding it throughout her storied career make that implausible. And if the kidnapping had, in fact, been faked, the police would have stated such after the investigation, instead of silently closing it without issue. But as we will go over, Jessica was far from the only famous person to get kidnapped, held against her will, and see no justice. She, however, was the youngest.
Justin Long? What? How is this not like just well-known shit?
While there was little to no reporting on Jessica Alba's kidnapping outside of the police report and her book, Justin Long's harrowing tale wasn't made public until May of 2019, when he went on Dax Shepard's podcast and spoke about the experience. The kidnapping had taken place in 2008, an entire decade prior to it being made public, and it occurred when he had just begun to really make a name for himself in the acting world. According to Justin, despite appearing in movies like Jeepers Creepers, Dodgeball, Crossroads, Accepted, and the Alvin and the Chipmunks series, he had yet to really make a name for himself. He seemed to be typecast as the kind of nerdy, awkward guy in everything he did, and most people who watched his work just thought of him as the token nerd stereotype. He was becoming a character actor who played the same role in everything, but wasn't quite famous. It wasn't until he began dating one of his co-stars, Drew Barrymore, and landed the Apple Get a Mac campaign that people really started to recognize him for his work, and would then consider him to be truly famous. While experiencing his first real taste of celebrity, Justin began filming the movie Youth in Revolt with Steve Buscemi. During the shoot, the cast made it a habit to end their days by going to local bars and having a couple of drinks to cap off the night. But this had a tendency to cause a fair bit of pandemonium, as people would rush to the bar for a chance to talk to Steve, Justin, Michael Cera, or any of the cast members who would join them. Most were polite to the people who asked for autographs or pictures, but kept their distance. Justin, in stark contrast, made it a point to spend as much time as possible with the fans, thinking very little of his safety. He was affable and courteous to everyone who he happened upon, to the point of putting himself in danger. His castmates thought his actions were careless and ignorant, and after a couple nights out witnessing Justin's antics, Steve pulled him aside and told him about the time that he had been stabbed in his neck, his jaw, and his arm while out drinking. According to official reports, 2 men had attacked Buscemi and Vince Vaughn after one of their girlfriends spoke to the pair, and Buscemi almost died of his wounds. He tried to instill to Long that being a celebrity while fun puts you in direct danger, and that just because people seem nice doesn't mean that they actually are. Justin thanked Steve for the
Holy
advice,
moly.
but felt confident that nothing like what happened to Steve would happen to him. But by the end of the shoot, he would
I've
realize
never
that he
heard
was
that
wrong.
story.
On the last day of the shoot, Justin and a couple of PAs went out drinking. Because it was just a few of them, the bar hadn't been as chaotic as it had been previously, and they were drinking in the main room, rather than a back room. At a certain point, two men approached Justin and began to neg him. They repeatedly called him names like Hollywood and Big Shot, and disparaged the fact that his friend and him had caused such a fuss at the bar prior that regular customers like him had been kicked out. Justin played along with their ribbing, trying to make light of their contempt, and in an act of good faith, bought them multiple drinks and shots. Throughout the night, whenever Justin would find himself talking to another party, they would find him and start teasing him further. According to Justin, he thought it was all in good fun and mostly harmless, but after a while he did start to feel as if they might have been a little bit more hostile than he initially thought. As the bar began to close, Justin and the PAs he was with decided they were going to go back to the hotel and call it a night. However, the two men who had been teasing him relentlessly counteroffered. They stated that they were going to go to a nearby casino and asked if they would like to tag along. Justin eagerly agreed, due to his love of blackjack, but stated he would need to stop off at his hotel first to get money. One of the PAs also agreed to go, while the other decided to go home. After they went back to his hotel to collect the money, the two men brought him and the PA back to their trailer, and stated that they needed to do a couple things before they drove to the casino. Justin stated at this point he felt odd. He didn't think anything was too noteworthy, aside from the fact that they continued to call him Big Shot.
I think that Justin Long is way out of Drew
Justin
Barrymore's
they
league.
needed
That's
to stay
crazy.
quiet as their roommate was sleeping, and asked him if he wanted to take a hit from their bong. Justin declined politely, not wanting to get crossfaded as he was still pretty drunk. But the men once again pressured him, asking if he was too good to smoke with them because they were normal and beneath him. Justin, like he had before at the bar, placated their statements and decided to take a hit out of courtesy. However, whatever was in the bong was not weed. He stated that it tasted clean, like some sort of chemical cleaner, and after speaking to multiple people about this occurrence, believes he was given PCP instead of weed. Immediately, he felt as if he had no control over his body. He then offered the bong back to the two men who had brought him to the trailer, but they refused to take a hit. Everything felt like a horror movie, and he realized at once he was surrounded by people he didn't know, in a place he was unfamiliar with, and he had no reason to trust anyone around him. They had just given him a drug he was entirely unfamiliar with, and they could do anything they wanted to him, and he wouldn't be able to fight back. Similarly, the PA who would come with him also took the drug, meaning that the only person around him that he felt any amount of trust with was also completely incapacitated. Justin stood up, and it was apparent that he thought something was wrong.
Yeah, that is pretty weird,
He wanted
Bardick,
to
I
leave, and he was
agree.
trying to get the
But,
words
like,
together to say as much. But
it
one of
sounds
the
like
men
he's
stood
kind
up
of a
and
people
began,
pleaser,
in
hey?
Justin's words, to do karate kicks at his face.
Poor baby.
Justin tried to explain that he needed to go, and that he didn't want to go to the casino anymore, and that he just wanted to go home. But he was quickly forced back onto the couch by the man doing fake karate moves.
One of them stood up to go get the roommate, and I stood up, and the remaining townie started doing these karate kicks at my face. Like, it was like in Boogie Nights, you know, where that crystal meth scene where and he was saying things like, whoa, bro, sit down, calm down. Karate kicks at my face. And
the third roommate, who Justin had been told was sleeping in the other room, appeared, completely dressed and not at all tired. According to Justin, this man looked him up and down and said, "Oh yeah, you're right. That is the guy. Let me get my camera." At that point, Justin's stomach dropped entirely. The cautious tale that Steve had told him days earlier raced in his mind, and he felt as if he was truly about to die. He knew that none of the men present had good intentions, and the fact that they could make him do or say whatever they wanted terrified Justin. The group got back into the car, and the men continued to tell Justin that they were going to go to the casino, but they had to make a couple of stops first. Justin's heart was racing. He couldn't think straight due to the PCP and his general anxiety. The men had placed him in the back of the car, and they had huddled up together in the front, talking about what they were going to do. Justin stated that he heard them talking about making another movie with him and selling said movie to TMZ or Perez Hilton. They wanted to embarrass him for profit, it seemed, or worse, hurt him.
Two guys are driving, they're in front, and they were kind of whispering back and forth, and they're texting somebody.
There's no
And
signal
they're saying things like, "Yeah, I think
to my monitor.
could
I
hear
think I just
snippets
broke my
like,
monitor by
okay, we're coming.
accidentally
we got it.
pressing my cat
And
against
they would
it
lean
too
back to me and
hard.
say, "It's all right, bro. We're gonna make one more stop, and that'll be it. Okay, okay, Justin."
Oh.
So they started saying like,
Okay, Strange Wilderness.
Yeah, they started saying like, "How about we make another movie? You want to be in a movie for TMZ or YouTube?"
my
and
God.
yeah, and I'm panicking, and
As they continued to
seems
drive
fine. Okay,
to
at least there's
Birmingham,
that.
Justin began to panic even more. The PA who had came with him tried to calm him down as he began to kick and hit the back of the seat in front of him, thrashing aimlessly. He kept repeating that he needed to go back.
I
and
can
he
see
wanted to
you
go back to
guys.
the hotel.
I have
To
two
calm him
monitors.
down,
The one that
the
I'm
guys turned
watching
car
the
around
video
and
on
drove past it, telling him
is
that everything was fine, that they just wanted to hang out, but Justin
compromised.
didn't listen. In his mind, which had already been clouded by the unknown drug, these men were up to no good, and he was most likely going to die that night. Finally, he spotted a stoplight in the distance, which to him looked like salvation. He made a quick plan that when the car stopped at the light, he would jump out and run away to safety, leaving the other PA in the car with the men. He prepared mentally, thinking he would finally be free from his captors, but they ran the red light carelessly. To Justin, this, over everything else that had happened, was a
Devastating.
clear sign they were up to no good. In his mind, they had known of his plan to jump out of the car and made it so he wouldn't be able to. His mind raced, scared of what they might do to him. And finally, he resolved himself to jumping out of the moving vehicle. Without stopping to think about what he was doing, he threw open the door and jumped out of the car. His legs ended up under the back wheels, and he was completely run over. But still, he got up and ran, hoping to find someone to bring him back to safety.
So
A taxi
scary.
cab had been following the car at a distance, and Justin stopped it and got in, bleeding everywhere. He was entirely disheveled, bleeding from his leg, and was clearly on drugs, so the taxi driver asked him to get out. But Justin stayed, begging him to take him back to the hotel. The car with the men had stopped, and they let the PA out, and she rushed over to the taxi cab to see if he was okay. He left a woman in the car with the fucking guys. Good God, what a hero. The men then sped off.
Oh my,
concerned
he
that
was
they had
on
killed or
drugs.
injured
Cut him
Mr.
some
Hollywood.
slack.
After a bit of
Also,
back and
sexism
forth,
maybe
Justin
a
and
little
the PA
bit.
were able to get
Like,
back to the hotel, where
hello?
Justin passed out, either
I-
from blood loss or
That
the
was
drugs
not a
in his
good
system.
look.
He recalled waking up the next day in a blood-stained mattress, with the worst pain he had ever felt in his entire life. Instead of going to the police to report what had occurred, he went to a doctor, who told him that though he miraculously didn't break any bones, he did have a significant amount of nerve damage done to his leg.
Fuck!
For
Oh,
that
no.
reason, after that,
Okay, we're
he
good,
never
we're
went
good.
to the
Everything's
police
back
to
and
report
working.
what had happened. On the podcast, he stated that while he thought
That's
he
the
was
end
being
of our fucking
kidnapped at the
ballerina
time
shirt,
and everything
y'all.
felt incredibly
Ballerina
sinister
topic
to
done.
him, it's entirely possible that the drugs
I'm so
had warped
hyped.
his perception.
Okay.
He joked that though
Sweet
the
baby
night
boy.
seemed terrifying, they could have had good intentions and might have just been messing with him. He also felt like going
I
to
love
the
you so
police
much. I
would
will
have
hang
hurt
out
his
with you
career
very
in some
soon.
way, so he kept it to himself.
And now I'm picturing like the driver telling this story, like his point of view.
Oh, I would
his
love to
buddies.
hear
I
the
would
sober
too.
person.
I would
Yeah,
too.
yeah.
This little
Yeah, like literally, it could have been like, yeah. So these dudes want
It's
to stop and get
definitely
pony
a
dogs.
size
Fucking
large.
Justin jumps out of the car.
It's definitely a size large or maybe even
Like,
extra
oh,
large.
I was thinking about the
Maybe
cab
even
driver.
double
Oh,
XL.
I'm
This
talking
I
about
would
a
not be able to
sober
wear this.
PA.
It would not
He was probably like,
fit
oh, these,
me
yeah,
right,
these dudes want to stop
but
and get a couple chili dogs
this
on the way
shirt
downtown
is
and fucking
so
long
fucking
bolts out
cute,
of the moving
you guys.
car.
Everything was innocent.
I missed a
Could've been.
hydrate.
They're like, how much
I'm
money?
so
You got enough
sorry,
money for a
Lil.
dog?
Thanks
Yeah,
for
but
looking
they're
out for
worried
me.
about you. Like, do you need money for a camp?
Do you want us to spot you for black? Totally. It was all in my head. But
The final case we are going
Okay.
to discuss happened to Benedict.
I had no idea that Benedict Cumberbatch also got kidnapped, but it's 1:00 in the morning here, so it's pretty late. I'm going to go ahead and call it. Thank you all so much for hanging out. Oh, Shardies, I'm gonna refund that. Use it tomorrow, okay? We'll be back tomorrow for We'll be back tomorrow during the day for the sedition hearings. I probably won't do night streams. Holy, we need to see this. It's on the Dreading channel. Please go give him a view. Please, please. I gotta go. It's late and I have to be up early enough to get the stream going, which means that I need to start my wind down now. And it's gonna be hard for me to fall asleep because I'm fasting today, so I'm on an empty stomach. But really quick, I do want to very badly, I want to say thank you so much to my patrons. who are as follows. One moment. I know who it is, but I like to populate in case there's somebody that subscribed and I missed it. I would feel really awful if I didn't thank somebody. Big Wolf Paws, Quinn Kenobi, Laura Cody, and Katie Bailey. I appreciate it very, very much. Please follow me on Twitter. If this is your first time here and you've enjoyed the content, give it a like. If you have a Prime sub sitting around, I would take that off your hands. No big deal. Twitter.com/ZER0DOXY. We've also got the Discord at discord.gg/fartslide. We will be setting up our Ko-fi shop. I feel like it's pronounced Ko-fi. It's spelled like Ko-fi. It might just be coffee. I don't know. Yeah. Tomorrow, sedition hearings, whenever those are live, will be live. I believe it's at 1 p.m. Eastern, so it should be 2 p.m. for me. I will double check. I will tweet about it. There was something else that I wanted to say, but I don't remember. Just make sure that you're supporting other creators. I would love it if y'all would tell me what your favorite letter of the alphabet is. I need to know what your favorite letter of the alphabet is, so that my raid can be big, fat, and girthy. Yeah? Yeah? Because we're going to find somebody to raid. Thanks, everybody, for hanging out. I'll see you tomorrow. Bye-bye.